Welcome to the first ever Discourse end of the year special. Tonight, we're going to be catching up on the albums from bands that decided to release an album after we gave our rankings for them. We're going to be ranking all the discographies that we talked about this year. Each of us will give our least favorite project of the year, as well as our favorite EP. And finally, we're going to give our top 5 albums of the year. My name is Nathan. With me, I have my co-hosts, Kyle and Jeff. Boys, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. How are we doing tonight?
Gentlemen, it's been a great year. A lot of firsts. The first episode of Discourse came out. As Nathan mentioned, the first end-of-year episode. And hey, the first Man of the People has emerged for the year.
Come on.
Nathan ran the stats for social media mentions, and yours truly, Kyle McDowell, got the most positive social media comments, which makes me the Man of the People. Just want that to soak in. Jeff, how you doing, brother?
And with that, you've just cemented that you will not win Man of the People in 2023. I just want to put that out there. But I'm doing well. I mean, if you would have told me that we would still be doing this podcast in December after we started it, 9 months ago, I don't know if I would have believed you. But we're here, and I'm more excited than ever to talk about these projects and to jump into 2023. I'm really, really excited for tonight.
Boys, how did y'all's Spotify Wraps look?
Dude, there was one band that dominated all of my songs. All 5 of my most played songs, well, at least 4 of them, I think, were one band. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did not see that coming at all.
What band was that?
It was Any Given Room, which we will talk about later.
Oh.
Spoiler.
Same exact thing for me. 4 of my top 5 songs were by a band called Glass Beach. They released a record in 2019, and I just discovered it fully this year, and it dominated. It lived rent-free in my brain for about 3.5 months there.
All of my songs were Discourse songs, and at least 3 out of 5, I think, were Architects. So it was kind of interesting.
Wow.
Didn't realize I listened to them so much.
Well, Architects makes sense. They got 9 albums we had to review.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're my number 4 band, and I didn't really listen to them outside of prepping for the episodes. So it was
That's so
constant
funny.
Architects for 3 weeks.
This show has completely derailed our Spotify Wrapped.
Oh, for sure.
In terms of what I enjoyed most that came out this year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
oh, for sure.
But it's all worth it.
It's like you listen to The Plot and You for 4,000 minutes.
Why? And I was like, what? Did I?
The Who?
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, me neither, dude. It's been great. This has been a lot of fun. Excited for what else to come. So before we go any further, I got to do the usual plugging the social medias and all that. If you want to yell at us for any of our takes this year, you can find us on social media on Twitter at Discog_pod, on TikTok at Discourse, on Instagram at Discog.discourse. And, if you're feeling the Christmas spirit, or, if you're having a great new year, please leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on. That would help us a lot. The algorithm just kind of eats that up. And before, we get into the juicy stuff, we have a couple tweets that we want to shout out. Now, if you want us to read your tweet on the show, all you got to do is quote tweet our promotional material for this episode, usually our rankings, and give us your takes. Give us your list. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll choose 2 or 3 to read on this show. And so the first one that we have tonight is from Cody Johnson at SadBoyClick DYT. He says, for the My Chemical Romance episode, I should clarify, he said the list should be 5 Conventional Weapons, 4 Danger Days, 3 The Black Parade, 2 3 Cheers, 1 I Brought You My Bullets. Then he says, hipster of me, I know. Now, when I first saw this list, I didn't realize he was going top to bottom in terms of ranking, so I thought he put Conventional Weapons at 1 for a second, and that was insane. But then I realized that he put I Brought You My Bullets at 1, and that's almost just as insane, so it doesn't really matter. What do y'all think about that?
I don't know. There's a lot of Bullets love that I've seen on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And it honestly, it almost makes me want to reevaluate my list, with so many people praising the album. Now, of course, I don't know if that's just nostalgia glasses kind of tinting their view It could have been their first My Chemical Romance album. I don't know, but I've seen that a lot. That's not an uncommon take, I don't think.
I mean, putting the Black Parade at 3 is pretty unforgivable.
You put it at 2.
But 3, I mean, there's a stark difference between the number 1, number 2 albums that we all put, and then the bottom 3.
That's actually true.
I would agree with
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And the I mean, there's just such a chasm between them that having the Black Parade fall that far is comical.
It makes sense though. Like if you're gonna put Bullets at number 1, Three Cheers is obviously gonna be at number 2.
You know, when I'm looking at his album rankings, and they're actually just in chronological order, so it almost does look like it's.
Oh yeah,
he must have started early with them and just followed them, and just sort of fell away from them as time went on. That's kind of what it looks like to me.
So our next tweet is from Only Chance at Chance Emergency. He says, "I'd put Bullets first and move down Three Cheers and two, and Black Parade to 3, and the rest is correct." That's pretty much the same thing, you know. Obviously, if Bullets is going to be first, Three Cheers is going to be second. And then moving on to our last one, we have a tweet from Stuffed Crust Forever at CBoaz5050. He ranks Black Parade, Danger Days, Three Cheers, Bullets, then Conventional Weapons. Now, Danger Days at number 2. I think that's very interesting.
How do you know which way this list is going? That's what I want.
I have. It's called critical thinking, Jeff.
Yeah,
It's just a reason.
I don't
It's
know,
logic.
because if Black Parade's at number 5, I don't even know what I would say.
No one is putting Conventional Weapons at number 1.
yeah, Jeff, you,
Hey,
you
you'd be
gotta use your
surprised.
brain.
You'd be surprised.
I would. There probably is one person, and maybe it's Stuffed Crust Forever.
Yeah, I mean, but
exactly.
that person probably isn't on Twitter and probably doesn't follow us. So
No, dude. Twitter is home to all of the worst takes. They're definitely on Twitter.
no, you're probably right.
Okay, and the last thing we did with Twitter that, you know, is special to this episode, we shot out a tweet asking you guys to rank our episodes, because we're firm believers that if you're gonna deal it out, you got to be able to take it. So we asked that you rank our episodes from worst to best, and Maximum 337 at Maximum 337
Freaking boy.
gave us the full rundown. And I love this. He says, you ask, you receive. And I'm just kind of going to blow through these because this could be long if we talked about each one. Our worst episode, The Plot in You. The fact nobody put Happiness and Self-Destruction at number 1 is whack. And just the thought of someone putting Wife Beater at anything other than last is gross. Firstborn is so mid, and y'all slept on Swan Song. And I think he speaks for the people there that seem to be the general consensus with all of that, everything he just said. In 7th place, our Emma Rosa episode. Again, I have no idea why anyone would put This Is Your Way Out over any of the albums. Peach Club is a fun album, and you guys calling it an atrocity is such an L. Only thing keeping this from 8 is everyone putting Self-Titled at 1 and introducing me to Gallons. You know, if there's any positive that came from that Emma Rosa album, it's introducing someone to Gallons. Number 6, our 4 Years Strong episode. Only one person puts Rise or Die Trying at 1. Also, just really hard to follow along with the old format. I agree. Glad we got rid of that. A Day to Remember at number 5. This is so low for no other reason than Kyle and Nate putting Common Courtesy and What Separates Me From You at 5. Fair enough. Our 4th place is the Einstein Kills episode. Safe is Just a Shadow at 6. Also gassed up Every Trick in the Book too much. Common Nate W. Shout out. Our 3rd place episode, Hail the Sun. Don't feel super strongly about them, but I think you guys gassed up Mental Knife and Secret Wars too much.
No, we didn't. We didn't gas it up enough.
Shout out to you for putting Hail the Sun so high, because that episode is easily our least performing. So the fact that it's ranked high, I like that. It's a good episode. Go listen to it. 2nd place, he put our My Chemical Romance episode, another Common Nate W. Shout out. And then 1st place, our Architects episode. This ep is huge because it's the only ever Kyle W. That's so funny. Hollow Crown is way too low on all your lists, but at least you got the Holy Trinity in the top 3. Didn't do Fit for a King because I've never touched their Discog. Fair enough. Maximum 337. Shout out to you for the list. We love that.
And for the tweets, the man's the GOAT. Tweets on everything.
Yeah, he interacts with us a lot. We notice who interacts with us a lot. We know they're the best. Okay, now guys, let's get a little bit serious. I think we need to give a moment of silence for the first ever Discog Discourse in Memoriam. So please join me as we honor some of these bands that are no longer with us.
Cue the violins.
Circus Survive, 2004 to 2022. Every Time I Die, 1998 to 2022. I forgot that was this year, to be honest. No Effects, 1983 to 2022. That one's pretty long overdue. Who said that?
Yeah, that should have happened in 95, but it's just me.
We can't laugh in
memoriam. No, you're right.
It's finally,
it's like laughing at a funeral.
Yeah. Finally, we have Oakley Dokley, 2015 to 2022.
They deserved it. Their name is Oakley Dokley.
It was a Ned Flanders metal band. Show some respect.
Wow. That Every Time I Die hurts.
Every Time I Die did hurt, dude. And that was like crazy. There was so much drama surrounding that.
Well, that's what I love. Dude, if a band breaks up, I want there to be some real hurt. Like some drama. People are taking sides. I want it to be like a reality TV show.
Yeah.
So I like that they broke up in flames, you know?
Yeah. That last album was so good.
Oh, it was. We'll do them eventually.
We will, eventually. So that's everything. That's all the housekeeping. That's all the little things we wanted to do before we got started. And now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. So the first thing we're going to do to kick off the end of the year festivities is catch up on a couple bands that release new projects after our episodes. And we want to see where those new albums rank. And we have 2 to do. And I think we're going to kick it off with the new Architects album, The Classic Symptoms of a Broken Spirit. So if I were to slide this into my rankings, this slides into the 7th spot for me, only beating Nightmares, Ruin, and the Here and Now.
Yeah, I slotted this one in the 8th spot, beating Nightmares and Ruin and being just below the Here and Now.
It's in the 7th spot for me. I have it just below For Those That Wish to Exist. And I have it above Nightmares, the Here and Now, and Ruin.
Okay, so we're all kind of on the same page that this is in the lower half of the Architect's discography.
Oh, absolutely.
But Kyle, I know you have very strong feelings about this album, so why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, I think this album stinks. It's hard to listen to this band where there's not much heavy stuff throughout. I believe the last song on this album is really, really heavy and entertaining to listen to. Other than that, it feels like the same droney riff, and it seems like he's hitting the exact same notes on every single chorus and bridge, and the verses are uninteresting. It feels lazy. It feels uninspired. The first 2 songs I don't dislike, but then when every song after them are the same, and it's, I don't know. I thought that For Those That Wish to Exist was uninteresting, and this blew For Those That Wish to Exist out of the water on the uninteresting scale. Really disappointed. I know we talked about, hey, you can't expect them to do what they did in the past, but you kind of can. If we know what they're capable of, and we know, hey, they can roll out just a 4-year run unlike anything else, then you kind of can be like, hey, what happened in 2022 when you released Symptoms of a Broken Spirit? And it just sounds like a much, much, much lazier version of your sound.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And one thing that bugs me about this album, and it may be kind of superficial, is the fact that they put all the song titles and the album title in lowercase. I don't know, that just irks me the wrong way. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it just kind of comes off as, look how different we are. Like, we're doing something different here. Can't you tell with the song titles? They're in lowercase.
We're so mature and introspective.
Yeah, we're so exactly.
It's just pretentious. It's just pretentious. It feels like a lot. Like the aura that they hold themselves with just through the rollout of this album as a whole is just pretty pretentious and rubs me the wrong way.
I agree, and I think that's actually my least favorite thing about this album. If this album didn't have the same kind of, the band seems to hold it in such high regards. Like, this is mature music. We're not doing breakdowns anymore. Metalcore is for immature music babies that don't know how to handle emotions and like all of that. Like, I hate that I ever did the bleh sound. Like, shut up, dude. Like, the whole persona that they've built around this album is so annoying. It's so pretentious. You're right. It's so pretentious. And I think that holds the album down for me. Like, that made it worse.
Yeah, I always try to separate the artists from their music. But in this case in particular, it's pretty tough, especially with how alienating to their fan base they've been, at least from what I've seen. Them sort of putting out posts and stuff like, you may not like this sound, but this is what we're going for now. Like, this is who we are. Sorry if you don't like it, but, you're just going to have to deal with it sort of attitude towards the whole thing. And I just don't like that. I completely agree with you.
It would be one thing if you were like, hey, we're going in a different direction. Like, some of you aren't going to like this, but that's fine. I don't care if a band says something like that. Like, that's cool. That's just making what you want to make and like addressing it. But they're like, it sounds like they're mocking people. They're like, I miss the old Architects, and they're just not heavy anymore.
Yeah, he put out a meme.
Stop.
If he put out a meme about that.
Their spirit has been broken, and this is a classic symptom of a broken spirit. Nice. So maybe they're playing 4D chess and they understand, and they're just like, yeah, screw you guys. Yeah. We don't really care anymore. We know you'll listen. So,
well, it's like, and to me, that's the worst part of this album, because I actually, I don't mind this album if I'm throwing it on in the background. Like, it sounds fine. And I think the choruses especially like are pretty good for the most part. Kyle, you mentioned the first 2 songs on the album. Those stood out to me as well. Tear Gas and Deep Fake. I don't dislike those. Like, I kind of enjoy them actually, especially the choruses. But my issue with this album is I can only hear the same song so many times until it's terribly uninteresting. And that's kind of what this album is. Like, it's one song done over and over and over again, and they beat the dead horse. I defend for those that wish to exist. Like, that's my number 4 album in this discography. I like it. And what's so good about it is the diversity. Like, there is something for everyone. They try a lot of different sounds on there. Whereas this album, they have one sound and they do that the entire album until the last song, which is like more in line with metalcore Architects, which is also like, I like that last song too. So there's stuff on here that I like, but most of it is just pretty generic. Like Born Again Pessimist, it just sounds like Nickelback. Like the riff, the line he says, fell asleep in the back seat. F, it was so sweet. That's a Nickelback lyric, dude. It's a little more generic Architects. I don't mind it, like I said, if it's on in the background and I'm working or something. But if I'm going to sit down and listen to an Architects album, it's not this one.
Yeah.
Yep.
100% agree. Spit the Bone to All the Love in the World is just kind of all the same 30-minute song.
Yeah. So definitely bottom half Architects album.
Yeah, definitely. If you're trying to get into Architects, do not listen to this album first.
Yeah, no.
Or at all, really.
That's funny. All right, should we move on to the next album?
Yeah, definitely.
We shall.
All right, we did a Fit for a King episode, so that means we are now going to review their newest album, The Hell We Create. So for me, I like Fit for a King a lot. They don't have that annoying social media presence. I like them as people. I have a closer connection with the band just because of how much I've enjoyed past works of theirs. But all that being said, this is their 6 out of 7 album for me.
Yeah, across the board. 6 out of 7 for me too, and I believe Jeff.
Yep, 6 out of 7 for me as well.
And for all of us, the only album it's better than is The Path.
Yeah.
I did in the episode say Descendants was my 7th album. I have recently come around and realized that Since it's a pretty darn good album, and so I bumped that up to my 5, just so everyone's aware. I know no one's really in the lore like that, but just stay consistent.
Yeah. We're that, if we want to make any amendments to our rankings, this is our last chance to do that before we lock them in. I don't know. I feel like the last 2 Fit for a King albums have been pretty disappointing for me, especially The Path. Like, I just didn't really like the more metal emphasis on that. I feel like this course corrects from that a little bit, but not enough for me to really love it.
No, this album's, to me at least, is incredibly generic in a lot of ways. But there are some good songs on here, like Reaper.
Oh, yeah.
Eyes Roll Back. It's a huge plus for this album. One of the main reasons why I put it above The Path was because of Eyes Roll Back, and The Hell Would Create is not a terrible song either. The problem though is that when you get into end parentheses the other side end parentheses, it's literally The Hell We Create 2. It's the same song, just with a different chorus, just with different lyrics slapped in there, and maybe with a slightly different breakdown. And that's where this album, I think, starts to become generic, is that I feel like I've heard all these songs before, over and over and over. And that's not including some of the songs that I think are a little bit softer, especially near the end, like the last 3 songs. Am I right about that?
I honestly don't remember.
Awesome.
Yeah, a little softer, but I do like the outro. It's so low on my list just because this is such a strong discography. I mean, I disagree with you, Jeff. I love End to the Other Side. I love the opener. I mean, this album is shot out of a cannon. Like you mentioned, Reaper is nuts. And Eyes Roll Back, we haven't heard Ryan Kirby scream like that, since Dark Skies. He goes nuts in that song.
Yeah.
And it feels like more of a return to, their heyday. Not a full return, obviously, but they're going back. They're getting heavier. I think Nathan made a comment like, when a band says, we're about to drop the heaviest album ever, that it's not going to be their heaviest album ever. And I want to say Fit for a King said that this was going to be their heaviest, and it's obviously not. But they are returning to Ryan Kirby taking the reins, making you pay attention to him with some of his lyrical performances on this album. And I really enjoyed this. Compared to what I had to endure with Architects, this was fantastic. Obviously a step up from The Path. Just nothing like kind of their bread and butter heyday.
Yeah. There's a lot to praise about this album. I think first, like what Fit for a King is setting out to do, they're doing well. Like their goal is to be the biggest metalcore band in the genre with good breakdowns and anthemic choruses. And that's what they're good at. Like they do that throughout this entire album. And I appreciate that their goal is to be good and big while playing metalcore instead of trying to be big by getting out of metalcore and looking at metalcore like a snob and saying, oh, disgusting. We're so mature now. Cough, cough, Architects. And so I think like just the kind of attitude around this album already pumps it up for me way higher than that Architects album. The only reason this is so low for me is because their other albums are so strong.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, I think Tuck sounds awesome on this record as well.
I was going to say, I actually think Ryan took over the cleans, and Tuck only does cleans on like 1 or 2 songs on here, which is something that I wish they would go back to because I like Tuck's voice more.
Okay, maybe I'm misremembering. I just wanted to praise Tuck. He's got a podcast. And just like hearing him talk about the genre and talk about music is really comforting to know that like these guys are still inspired and they're still going hard. Yeah. It's you should listen to his podcast. I think it's called like Get Tucked or something like that.
It is.
Yeah, but just his perspective on the genre and on music is really cool. And it's great to hear that this band is still in good hands.
That's what I'm saying though. Like I like these guys. They're cool. They respect metalcore. I like that attitude a lot more than Architect's attitude. To talk about the album a little bit, Ryan, I think you could argue he sounds the best he's ever sounded on here. Like he's doing screams we've never heard him do. One of those key moments is the end of Reaper. He sounds amazing. I think there are a lot of great moments on this album. I think the end of Reaper, like I mentioned, the end of the song End is nuts. And then the entirety of Eyes Roll Back is just insane. And I feel like that song is what everyone seems to think God of Fire is. And like God of Fire to me is a little too repetitive, but I feel like with this, they're doing like a lot of drops, but they learned how to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, his lyrical performance, his vocal performance is fantastic. I'm excited to see what their next step is after this, because like you mentioned, Nathan, he's got a streak of songs on here where it's like, is this Ryan Kirby?
Yeah. Also, the production on here, like this album sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of good things happening on here. I just don't think it's quite as strong as their other albums.
100% agreed, but just very strong discography, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah. All right. So those are the two new albums from bands that we've already talked about. And now we're going to go into ranking all the discographies that we've reviewed this year. And this is going to flow like a normal episode, but we're not going to go super in depth into our thoughts on why we ranked the way we did. Because if you want to hear our full thoughts on each of these discographies, we have a full back catalog of episodes that you can go listen to, and you can hear our full opinions there. So guys, are you ready? I think this was supremely difficult to do, but I gave it my best.
I was thinking I would just do it live. Like I was like, I'll just go off the cuff. Mm-hmm. And then I sat down 20 minutes before this episode and was like, I can pull out my 1 and my 9. And other than that, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you think too long about these Discogs, you'll start to second guess yourself and you'll spend hours trying to rank these. So for me, I just went off of my gut. I was just like, do I like this band's Discog more than the other? Yes. Okay, I'll put it. And if you think about it any more than that, I promise you get stuck. So that's how I had to do it, at least.
So we have 9 discographies to go through, and these are based not on the strength of the episode, but the strength of the discography itself, just to clarify that real quick. So in my number 9 spot, I have Emarosa. There isn't really a full project by this band that I love. Like, they have a couple good songs here and there, and some projects are clearly better than others. Like, Self-Titled is good enough, and Relativity has enough moments that I like, but overall, I just don't really like Emarosa that much, especially compared to the other 8 bands that we talked about this season. So, what do y'all think?
Yeah, this one hurts because it was the first band that I recommended for an episode. So for me to put it at 9, it really does hurt my heart, but it's true. I mean, Emarosa at their best, I don't even think comes close to my number 8. Well, maybe it does. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
No.
I like their self-titled, but I don't love it enough to put, for it to carry above any other discography. So it's going to go at number 9.
My number 9 is also Emarosa, but I do disagree with you. I think Emarosa at their best can run a lot higher. Their self-titled is one of my favorite albums. Well, I'm not going to say ever, but I do love their self-titled album.
It's good, for sure.
Like, I find myself listening to it at work, just kind of in the background, and I love it. But yeah, other than that, not a strong discography at all. Changes a little too much, and man, their last record and then their newest stuff is just so bad. Sorry, Maximum 3, but it sucks.
Can't wait to review that in next year's Into Year episode.
Oh, do we have to?
No.
We got to catch up on the discographies we covered.
Yeah, but no one cares about Emarosa.
Whoa.
All 3 Emarosa fans are very upset with you right now.
If they could stop listening to bad albums and listen to something good, they'd be very upset right now. All right.
Great point.
So moving on. In my number 8 spot, I have The Plot in You. Let me clarify. They have some really good material scattered throughout their discography. Oh. And they even have a couple really good albums. Like, I love Firstborn and I love Dispose. But outside of that, like, it's really hit or miss. They're good songs, but it's not like great material album-wise. And the lows on here, they're really low, and I don't find myself coming back to them often, if ever. I will say real quick, their new song Divide is amazing. Oh yeah. So I'm very, very excited to hear what they have coming next.
Even their best project, which I put as Could You Watch Your Children Burn? It's like a pretty good album, but it's not like, transcendent or anything. It's not this amazing project. I don't, I hate to say this. I don't know if I went back to a single The Plot in You song after our episode was over from any of their albums. Sort of like you said, Nathan, at their worst, it's almost unlistenable. I know I put Wife Beater at their not lowest spot. I kind of regret that. Looking back in hindsight, that album is just, I'm never going to listen to it again outside of the discography or the Discog Discourse. So
yeah, I put it at number 7 for the exact same reasons as you guys. I do really enjoy Firstborn and the Children Burning album. and I do enjoy Dispose.
You heard it here first. Kyle likes Children Burning.
And clip.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, I mean, they do have what would that be? 3 or 4 pretty strong albums. It was a Firstborn, Children Burning, Dispose, and then the book one. No, that's the Children
No,
Burning
that's
one.
Children Burning.
The kid smoking a cigarette. That one.
Happiness and
is
Self-Destruction.
Yeah, that one's not too bad, but yeah, overall, mediocre.
So we're all kind of on the same page so far, but I think I'm about to give you my first hot take with this ranking.
Oh, here we go.
My number 7 discography that we talked about this year is actually Architects.
What?
Oh, Jeff has that in his favorite discography that we talked about this year,
is.
and it's my number 7.
I'm mind blown.
Wow.
I'm mind
Well,
blown
let's hear
right
why,
now.
Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, take it away.
Dude, I mean, in my opinion, at least, this band has 3 almost perfect, if not perfect, albums in a row.
So they're batting 300? Like, that you like 33% of Architects albums and they're your number 1?
I think their albums are so good that it carries their entire discography. Like, and I don't, and like, their other albums are good. Hollow Crown is a great album.
Yeah, but that's okay. So 4 out of their 9 then are good albums.
That's
Yeah,
less than half.
Nightmares is unlistenable. You said it on air.
I agree.
Nightmares is unlistenable.
No, Nightmares is not a great album. I agree, but Ruin, pretty good. I have it ranked low, but it's
No,
not.
it's
terrible.
not.
It's okay. You guys hate it more than I do.
No, it's not.
It's okay.
It's
No,
bad.
it's
because it's a bad album.
no, because it's okay. I don't want to rehash an old argument, but they fixed a lot of the problems from Nightmares on that one. I'm just gonna say that the songs were less chaotic, the vocals were more clean, the production was better. Okay, I'm just gonna say that much.
Okay, this discog is too long, and the lows are too low for it to be ranked any higher than 7 for me.
Though,
Like there are some terrible albums in here, but there are also 3 amazing ones. But those 3, like, and I'll even say those 3 amazing albums clear a lot of other albums that I've listened to in my entire life. But when I look at the overall strength of the discography, it's just not that strong because the lows are so low.
My same exact reasoning. 3 of these albums I'm returning to, and I'm returning to a lot, and I'm returning to with very high regard. But that's 33% of the records that they put out. Wait, was this last one their 10th or their 9th?
9 or 10, I don't remember. I think it was
30% then. I mean, like, they're just 3 great albums, and then after that, just stuff I'm not going to be returning to. Looking at the discography as a whole, that's where I have to put them.
Okay,
Yeah.
so hold on. Daybreaker, good album.
Mid.
Hollow Crown, good album.
Mid.
For those that wish to exist,
Pretty good.
thank you. Pretty good.
Mid.
Okay.
Mid.
Ruin, I don't hate it.
Mid. Terrible.
I don't hate it. Okay, 7
Sucks.
out of 10 at least
It
for me.
stinks.
70% on a 10.
No way.
Yeah, on a 10 album Discog.
That's
pretty
Guys,
good.
we can't be doing. Guys, we can't be doing this right now.
yeah. We gotta
Okay, all right.
If you want to hear this debate but longer, go listen to that episode.
All right, I'm done.
And you'll hear what Jeff really thinks about his bottom 5 because
Yeah.
it's not as high as he's hyping it up right now.
He's making a lot of arguments that weren't present in that episode right now. Okay. My number 6 discography that we talked about this year, My Chemical Romance.
I'm sorry? What?
Jeff, what are you about to do something silly again?
Number 3.
You're a
All right,
moron.
real quick, this one was the hardest for me to rank because they have 2 absolutely transcendent albums and a handful of okay ones. And like, so if it was like Black Parade and 3 Cheers, it's legendary. This is number 1. But the other 3 projects hold this album back enough, or this discography back enough to put it at number 6.
I think so too. And just my personal preference, their top 2 albums don't really bite my top albums for the other bands that we've done.
Mhm.
So I just put them at my number 8 because great. Black Parade, fantastic. 3 Cheers, fantastic. The other 3, very mid. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's not really like my go-to type of music either. So yeah, put it at my 8. Love them, respect them. They're down. Jeff, why are they at your 3, brother?
Maybe it's recency bias, but ever since we did that episode, the Black Parade and 3 Cheers, I've been listening to pretty much nonstop. I Brought You My Bullets a lot. It's not my favorite album ever, but it's okay. There's some songs on there. And then Danger Days has some good songs. I would say maybe a third of that album is good. So, we're looking at, I don't know, 3.5 albums maybe of good stuff. And if we're doing percentages, which apparently we are, that's like 80%. Okay, 80%. I like 80% of their discography. That's higher than a lot of other discogs we're going to talk about. And
That's fair. I mean, it's better than
fair.
30%, like Architects.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just say this much, and I'll also say that the Black Parade and Three Cheers, I agree, are so good that they lift this discography higher than maybe other more consistent bands.
And part of this for me may be the opposite of recency bias because I've heard those albums so much that I'm like used to how good they are. And for you, it's all very fresh.
Yeah, no, it's super fresh. And yeah, that's exactly my point. So you guys can hate all you want. I stand by my opinions.
I will. And moving on to my number 5 discography that we talked about this year, I'm going to go with Hail the Sun. I love Hail the Sun. This is where we're starting to get to bands that I'm like, okay, this discography is super strong. They have 2 of my favorite post-hardcore albums with Wake and New Age Filth. Then they have some good to great projects like Elephantitis, Secret Wars, and Mental Knife. They really only have one bad project and one alright one. But the highs here are so dang high, and the fact that the lows aren't that bad. This band's been consistently solid for a long time, so their discography is strong.
They are also my number 5. And I'm going to go ahead and echo everything Nathan just said. And that Hail the Sun is one of my favorite bands out there. I recognize their discography is not quite as strong with Pow Right in the Kisser and what's the other one we didn't like? The one with the bed on the album?
Culture Scars?
Culture Scars. Yeah. Culture Scars pretty mid. I do like Elephantitis and Secret Wars and the rest of them, especially New Age Filth. And yeah, I have a lot of love for Hail the Sun, and I wish more people would listen to them.
Me too.
For me personally, I also think that this band has 3 amazing albums. I don't think that they reach the highs that Architects does, where those 3 albums are able to carry their entire discography for me. But they're really good, and they're not higher for me just because the bands ahead of them, I just like their songs a little bit more. They're just more, I guess, up my genre alley, so to say.
The thing that separates Hail the Sun and Architects is Hail the Sun doesn't have 7 bad albums that I have to listen to get to 3 good ones. They're like consistently good. So the discog is better.
Right. It's the Pow Right in the Kisser is a rite of passage to listen to the rest of Hail the Sun. And it's like a 25-minute rite of passage. Whereas Architects, it's like a 6.5 hour grueling rite of passage.
Agree to disagree.
All right. Nathan and I are pretty neck and neck.
We are. We're pretty much on the same page. The only difference in our list so far is My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, sure.
And Jeff still has a gaping hole at his 7th spot, so I'm curious to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet I know what it is.
You might. We'll see.
We'll see. Okay. Let's keep trucking. My number 4 is A Day to Remember.
No way, dude.
Okay, Kyle, I see you.
My brother.
Oh, wow.
Jeff, your list is a mess.
I don't like this very much.
Your list is a mess, but I like that Kyle and I are more or less on the same page.
We really are, man.
So just to say this quickly, A Day to Remember, their future is bleak if we look at their last album.
Yeah.
Which really sucks because they have some great albums and they're a staple of the genre. They helped to get me into this style of music. And I would say the stretch from Homesick through Bad Vibrations, or no, maybe even going back to For Those Who Have Heart through Bad Vibrations. It's all like at the very least very enjoyable and goes all the way to nearly flawless. And so that's why they're so high on my list.
Yeah. Amazing highs, pretty desolate lows.
Yeah.
But I just echoing what Nathan says, this was an instrumental band for me, no pun intended. And I think that with their second record, into Homesick, into the Time record, I can't believe, why can't I
What
not
separates
remember?
me from you?
Dude, why can't I remember these names? I'm just going by the album cover. It's just blaring in my head. They have some beautiful works, some amazing works, and yeah, love Day to Remember.
I think for me personally, I respect a lot of their work, and I think it's most of it, like all but maybe 1.5 albums, is really good. It just for me, I like the other bands that we've gone through better. That's it. Just like their music more.
Fair enough. You know, you're the guy that put Common Courtesy at number 1, so I'm not surprised you also made a bad decision here.
Yeah, that was a terrible decision.
I had Twitter support. I'll just say that much.
Yeah, that you did. I'm pretty sure on that
you did.
episode, because of my take on Common Courtesy, I got the Common Kyle L. So
Is that where that was established?
I think so.
Oh my God.
The Common Kyle L. That's so funny. And yet you still won Man of the People. We don't need to get into
No,
that.
no.
Okay. Moving on. At my number 3, my bronze award in the best discogs of the year, I have Fit for a King. Like I mentioned already, a band that I love and I've been following for a long time. I just think with the last 2 albums, they've kind of dipped down a little bit in quality, enough to knock them down to the number 3 spot in my list. Overall, pretty dang strong discography. Like, they have a great 3-album stretch, much stronger than most bands out there. And honestly, I would listen to this 3-album stretch more than I listen to Architect's 3-album stretch.
That's fair.
From Creation to Destruction through
Really?
Death Grip, I like those albums more than Architects. I recognize Architects is really good, but my personal preference leads me here more, so that's why they're ranked so much higher.
Mhm.
I mean, I have Fit for a King at number 2, and I hard disagree with that. Like, I have Architects so low because those 3 albums are the only ones that I'm interested in, but there's not one bad song across those 3 albums.
I didn't say there was.
Okay, that's fair, but I think Fit for a King's discography is so much stronger because there's only one album that I don't like from Fit for a King, and that's why they're at number 2. But man, gosh, Architects is really just getting a lot of airtime right now, and I'm sure they love that. But yeah, I mean, Fit for a King's discography is fantastic. Like you mentioned, that 3-album run is unlike anything else that we've covered, except for that Architects 3-album run.
Yeah, I have them at my number 4. And I think for me, maybe it's sort of harkening back to what you said, Nathan. I feel like I've listened to them so much that I'm a little burnt. So maybe looking, at this from this perspective, maybe isn't super fair, given that I've been listening to My Chemical Romance so much recently that I have a little bit of bias compared to Fit for a King. I think if you were to give me 6 months, I'd probably put Fit for a King at least my number 3, probably my number 2. But I just think that the 3 bands above them have such good music that it's hard for me to justify. I mean, when you get to this high, it's hard to really rank these bands fairly. It might be even more fair to do a tier list or something. You can just toss them all into S tier or something, because that's what I would do. So, but yeah,
but that's not our shtick.
No, we need to create conflict. It's entertaining.
True.
So, Fit for a King, I only have them at number 4 because I'm a little bit burnt on them. I've listened to them so much, and I've been listening to a lot more Architects, My Chemical Romance, and Blank recently.
I love Blank, dude. They're awesome.
Yeah, Blank is also one of my favorites.
All right, should we get into some of those blanks?
Please.
In second place, runner-up to best discography of 2022, I have 4 Year Strong. Simply put, this band has 3 of my favorite albums that we've talked about on this show, and the rest of their discography is decent at worst, and they never truly dip into bad territory. Enemy of the World, Self-Titled, and Rise or Die Trying are all elite, and then the other albums are like enjoyable to listen to at worst. So that's why they're my number 2.
Yeah, Rise or Die Trying is my favorite album we've done.
Mm-hmm.
Like of the however many that we've covered so far on Discourse. Rise or Die Trying is my favorite album that we have discoursed on this show. And their 10-year edition with the newer songs added to it, there are some pretty good songs on there too. I'm not going to say, I mean, obviously the 3-album stretch plus Brain Pain kind of juices their discography, but if not for Rise or Die Trying, they would absolutely not be at my number 3.
Yeah, I only have them at number. What do I have them at number 5? Because I really haven't given their 2 albums that aren't named, Self-Titled, Rise or Die Trying, Enemy of the World, and Brain Pain. I just haven't listened to them all that much. I really didn't enjoy them when we listened to them for the episode. And if I were to go back and listen to them, I might change my opinion. But right now, they have 3 incredible albums and 1 pretty good album, and then the rest I honestly I've forgotten. So that's why I don't have them higher. But if I were to go back, I'd probably rank them higher as well. Gosh, you guys are really starting to make me rethink my Architects and My Chemical Romance ranking, to be honest. I don't know.
Good. As you should.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways,
all right.
Number 1.
And last, but certainly not least, the best discography that we talked about in the year 2022 is Ice Nine Kills. I mean, to me, it's easily the most consistent band we've talked about. Like, the only slight miss for me is their debut, which isn't that bad. and then everything else slaps. So that's 5 really good albums that all have at least a handful of incredible songs. This was a no-brainer.
Yeah, 100%. I obviously disagree about the debut. I love it, and so does their lead singer and the creator of the band, Spencer Charnas. But nothing bad on this discography, and it doesn't look like they're going to stop anytime soon.
No,
which is extremely exciting.
Yeah, I have them at number 2 for the exact same reasons. That was probably the hardest ranking so far on the podcast, and I don't know if another band is going to be that difficult to rank.
I agree. All right. Go check out all those episodes if you would like more thoughts. Real quick to run through my list for the Discogs of 2022. At number 9, I'm going to put Emarosa. Number 8, The Plot and You. In 7th place, we have Architects. 6 is My Chemical Romance. 5, Hail the Sun. 4, A Day to Remember. In 3rd place, Fit for a King. In 2nd place, 4 Years Strong. And then in 1st place, the best discog we talked about, Ice Nine Kills. So are we ready to move on to the next segment for the show?
Oh yeah, I'm feeling good.
Well, here's something that's not good. We're going to talk about our choices for the most offensive, downright hard to listen to album of the year. And I feel like I've done a lot of talking, so I'm going to pass this off to one of you guys. Let's go. Jeff, please give us what you believe to be the worst album of 2022.
Gladly. So the worst album that I heard in 2022 is unfortunately the newest Five Finger Death Punch album, Afterlife. I think when you just look at the album cover, I think that gives you a good idea of what's coming in the project. It has some of the most repetitious songs I've ever heard. And at first I thought that was for a reason, because I think it was the second song, Afterlife, where they talk about like a broken record. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like a broken record is repeating. But no, every song is like that. Every song, he was repeating the same stuff over and over and over. The instrumentation is the same on every song. There's no difference. I think the most egregious thing about this album are the lyrics. The lyrics are just absolutely terrible. It's the worst form of like cool guy kind of rock that I really can't stand it. I really can't. And I have some good ones right here if you guys are willing to listen.
Please. Oh, I'm ready.
So, here are a couple of my favorites from the album. I don't even know if I can say these without laughing. Okay. So, from Gold Gutter, I'd like to thank the world for failing me. I count the ways, but they're too deep. And where would I even begin? I'd like to thank the Bible for sin. Like, what?
Oh my god, dude, it's like biker metal. It's cool. This album is for 45-year-old men who think they're cool.
This album is for 45-year-old men who are bald with a soul patch. And they think that like if they join the military, they would be the guy on the top of the truck with the gun, and they would be blaring this up there. That is what this music is for.
Yeah, and I can't stand it. I mean, obviously there is some sort of listening base because the album got a lot of plays. Like we're talking like tens of millions of listens, so there are obviously people there. But I mean,
and we also know exactly the type of sunglasses the bald guy with a soul patch is wearing when he listens to this album.
Yeah. Here's another one from Blood and Tar. Underneath that broken smile you wear, you're twisted, ugly, and bizarre, just like me. What do you guys think of that one?
Dude, I love that you're reading these like so straightly and so seriously because they're so bad. Like
it's as if we're at like a slam poetry recital. And listening to this is just, it's gold.
Just like me. Like,
what a plot twist. You know, that's about as intense of a plot twist that the average Five Finger Death Punch listener could probably handle.
Yeah, it's true. They definitely like look up and go, yeah, just like me.
That's me. Oh my gosh, it's me.
There's another one that says, dance, dance, MFer till the fat bee sings. Keeping it PG here, but I think you guys can sort of fill in the blanks for that one, for those lyrics.
I mean, that probably plays well with their audience.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cut that. Oh man.
No, but seriously.
I didn't get a chance to fully digest this album. I heard the first song, Welcome to the Circus, and I got it. I understood exactly what the rest of the album was going to be.
That's all
and
it is.
I wanted no part of it.
That's all it is.
Jeff, if you don't mind me jumping in here with one more lyric, and it's a riddle for you guys. Want to see if you guys can figure out what this means. One of the first things we hear off of this record is off of Welcome to the Circus, as Nathan was just talking about. You've got to kill somebody to thrill somebody. Everybody needs a reason to breathe. Gentlemen, what does that mean?
I don't know, but that line just repeated so much in that song.
It's so bad.
I listened to this record at 8 a.m. I was working from home from my wife's grandfather's house, and I listened to this while starting work, and I could not concentrate at all.
It's bafflingly bad. But like,
it's the same riff. It's the same riff over and over. What's the shotgun line? Is it
playing Ring Around the Daisies with a shotgun shell?
Oh my gosh.
Like, what does that mean?
It means nothing.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not surprised that this album is as bad as it is. It's Five Finger Death Punch. Like, obviously, it's not gonna be good.
Right, and their target audience is that 45-year-old man we've been describing, but it's really 12-year-olds who are trying to get into hard rock. And which makes it all the worse.
The gateway drug.
Yeah, true. Well,
it's so edgy. It's so edgy. It's just bad. It's awful.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad enough that the instrumentation is repetitive and they don't change it. The lyrics make it unlistenable, at least in my opinion. So that's all I have to say about that one.
I just remember texting you guys, and we were passing lyrics back and forth when it dropped, and it truly was. I mean, like it's comedy. It is comedy when you know like the persona that Five Finger Death Punch goes for.
Yeah.
Like, you know those inspirational posts that you see online, and it's like a beach, and it's like a nice like font, and it says like seize the day, enjoy life, whatever, that kind of stuff. Imagine that, but with these lyrics, and it's the funniest thing ever.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's one of those albums where you could click on a random song at a random time and read the lyric, and it would be funny. Like, there's nothing here of like none of the lyrics have value.
Should we play that game real fast? Just each of us click on one random song, scroll for like 1 second, and then read the first line that we see.
I'll do it. All right, so I'm going to the album right now on Spotify. I'm just gonna scroll and click a song. It's I got Blood and Tar, which we already talked about. But let me go to a random moment. At the 50-second mark, he says, "I'm tired of pretending that this isn't ending. I'm not sure which side of you I fear the most." Not the worst thing I've ever heard. Not the worst thing we've talked about, but certainly far from good.
It's like dramatic and cringy, over the top. I have a Judgment Day 213. Gotta pay the Pied Piper. Every dog will have his cage. Don't stress the mess, because it's all so cliche. That's kind of ironic. You can run around in circles, but it always ends the same. You'll be swinging from the end of a dead man's chain.
Whoa. Yeah! Hey. That's cool, dude. Heck yeah!
I got 214 on IOU. Is it better to serve in heaven or better to reign in hell?
Oh, what a classic!
You know that had to be in
never
there.
known.
You know that had to be.
No. Here's the best part. You've never known pain before, but I'm gonna show you.
Oh my gosh, dude! Get them bikes ready, boys. We're going out for a ride on our hogs.
That you've never known pain before, Kane before. It's like he just was like, what do we need to rhyme with pain? Kane. CAIN, not CAME.
What? It doesn't even
What
make
the
sense.
heck, dude? That's just terrible.
That's an excellent time. So if you're a listener and you want to have a good time with your friends, just do that.
Yeah, just find a random moment. You could probably do it with any Five Finger Death Punch album, and it would be
Play
fun.
the 5-Finger Death Punch drinking game. Take a shot every time he talks about killing someone. Every time he talks about beating
my
someone
gosh.
up.
Yeah. No thanks. Hard pass.
All right. I think I don't know if I want to talk about it anymore.
I've had enough of that. Let's go to another really bad album. Kyle, what you got?
Yeah, November 14th, 2022, the band known as Disturbed dropped a record, and it stinks. I listened to it in full twice, by the way, the day it dropped, because I kind of wanted to like it. But it is same old Disturbed. The album's called Divisive, by the way. The lyrics are not obviously like Five Finger Death Punch, because though they made a work of art with that record. But you know when you're texting something and you just hit the middle recommendation that the iPhone tells you to type. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
It says that they did that for 12 songs.
Yikes.
It's so generic. They're talking about nothing, but it still makes sense. And it's his exact same voice, the same song 12 times. And I know we said that about Architects. Think about that, except 3 times worse. I mean, every single song, he is hitting the same notes. He is going the same direction with the lyrics, with the guitars, with the drums. I mean, it's maddening, guys. It is maddening listening to this record, because I know a lot of people like it because it's the return to quote unquote old Disturbed, which was awesome in 2003, 20 years ago. You know, like it's the same thing, just more watered down, not as heavy. The soft songs stink. And overall this album is, you listen to it and you're like, man, that felt like it was 3 hours, but the same song for the entire 3 hours.
If you think about it, every Disturbed song is old Disturbed, in the sense that they are old and it's time for them to move on.
Yeah. No, for sure. Now, gentlemen, I want to play a game. Without looking, how many monthly listeners does Disturbed have?
Oh, it's got to be a lot.
I'm going to say 3 million.
What say you, Nathan?
Dude, I'm going to go 10 million.
Nathan, you are almost spot on. 9.6 million.
What?
Yeah. Well, because they have those covers that got really popular. They have the Sound of Silence cover.
Yeah.
That everyone loved. And I'll say it, I'll admit it, their back catalog has some good songs, like 10,000 Fists. That album.
Yeah. Dude,
great.
Down with the Sickness is an awesome song. I'll say that.
Well, until you get to the bridge of that song, but we're not going to get into that right now.
Yeah. Not to backtrack, but I'm going to. Same game. How many does Five Finger Death Punch have? Monthly listeners on Spotify, if you had to guess.
6 million?
8 million.
Jeff, you're right. 6.3 million.
Okay.
Yeah. That's too many.
I mean, it makes sense, though.
Way too many. Dude, I love the Spotify, the picture that Five Finger Death Punches has on Spotify. Their lead singer is wearing a brown bowler hat. Brutal. It's brutal.
I see that.
Oh, man.
That is what they're
terrible.
going for. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Welcome to the circus. I get it now. I see the vision.
Dude, all of those guys hate him too. Like, you just look at their eyes. They're like, God, this stinks. I don't like this guy.
Well, you know he has anger issues. Like,
Yeah, true.
obviously.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you're talking about like playing Ring Around the Daisies with shotgun shells,
Whoa.
That's so cool.
I wonder what his name is. I wonder how many times he's been married.
His name's Ivan.
Is it really?
I'm like 90% sure of that.
All right, let's fact check.
I'm looking it up.
Ivan Moody. Wow.
Ivan Moody. Yep. I knew that because at one point in my life, I liked Five Finger Death Punch, and I will admit that on air right now.
Let's go. He's also divorced, so
Duh.
yeah.
Interesting.
Sorry. Well, it's funny because he's also like the balding male with like kind of a scraggly beard. He really looks like the person that he is singing to, which is, hey, good for you, Ivan.
We've moved back to dumping on Five Finger Death Punch. Kyle, I want more about Disturbed.
There's not. It's the Disturbed album is extremely unremarkable and it's extremely boring. It doesn't. I mean, it sounds like I don't know, just what they were doing before, and some of the songs really suck. Namely, Bad Man. If you're familiar with Always Sunny in Philadelphia, it reminds me of The Nightman Cometh. The way he sings about the bad man, it's comical, and that song kind of encapsulates the record. It's the second song on the album, and it encapsulates like the cheesiness, the sameness, and just the overall boringness of this record.
Yeah, man. As soon as you like put it in my head that it sounds like The Nightman Cometh, it's all I could hear. It's so funny. It's like unironically exactly that.
Yeah,
except it's actually bad.
Hey You is the opener of this record. I think all three of us have listened to that. That song is terrible.
Yeah, I was gonna say
he says "Hey You" at least 25 times in that song.
That's what I was gonna say. I heard him say "Hey You" like twice at the beginning, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I had to turn it off. He was like, "Hey you, hey you." I was like, what is going on?
It's like the lyrical equivalent of the "Hey Hey Hey" chants that we hate so much.
It really is. But I know I'm probably going to get some hate because I know a lot of people liked this Disturbed record, but
who cares? All right, Kyle, do you have any more thoughts on Divisive?
I got nothing else. Listen to the album. Let us know what you think about it. And tell me if I'm wrong, because I know a lot of people liked it. I really do think it stinks.
All right. So August 19th, 2022 is a day that will live in infamy. Because not only did Five Finger Death Punch drop Afterlife, but that same day, Panic at the Disco dropped an album called Viva Las Vengeance. And that is my worst album of the year.
Came out on the same day. Same day.
Yes,
so did the I Prevail.
No.
Album.
Also the same day.
Wow.
Yeah. That album, honestly, not in consideration for this award. We dunked on it a little bit on Twitter, but it's not egregiously bad like these.
It's not the worst thing.
It's not very good though. So like having all three of those albums drop on August 19th. There's got to be like a memorial somewhere of like.
Yeah, we got to write that down.
Yeah,
that was too much.
No one can drop music on this day ever again. Yeah,
yeah. August 19th is a cursed day for music.
Some bad stuff going on.
Oh man, Viva Las Vengeance is a disaster. Everything about it is off. And I remember when this first came out, I listened to it with my buddy CJ. Shout out, name drop. And we were both just like genuinely baffled by how bad it is because there are genuinely no redeemable qualities about this album. And that's crazy because Panic at the Disco has some really good material. And I like at least a handful of songs on every album up through Death of a Bachelor. And like, I don't even mind the album with High Hopes. I don't remember what it's called, but like that song was overplayed. But I don't mind the way that sounds. Where this is hard to listen to. Like Brendan Urie sounds terrible on here. And it sounds like he's consistently trying to one-up himself on like how high he can go and what notes he can hit. But he sounds like he's just screeching anytime he goes in these high notes. He sounds off key. The song I would point to as the best example of this is Sad Clown. It is just laughably bad. It's horrible. And if you haven't heard it, you need to listen to it because it is an experience. It's just unbelievable because he has a good voice, or at least I thought he did. Like, he's made pop anthems, and you have to have a good voice to do that. So to me, this album just sounds like he wasn't trying, which is offensive as a listener, that you think you could put out an album like this and be like, yeah, it's good. but it's so bad. And there's a lot that I don't like about this. The lyrics on here, oh my gosh, they're so bad. They sound like they're trying to be quirky, which, Panic has always been a little quirky. But this time it feels like they're trying too hard to be quirky. Like, it doesn't feel as authentic as like, oh yeah, we just kind of make weird music that's a little out there, but it's also got like pop sensibility to it. It sounds like we're going to be as quirky as possible on this album. And it sounds horrible. Like, I have a handful of songs that all have terrible choruses, including Middle of a Breakup, where he says, keep your disco, give me T-Rex, make up sex in the middle of a breakup. Are you kidding me? That's terrible. And then the very next song on the album, Don't Let the Lights Go Out, he has the audacity to say the line, you're the only one that knows how to operate my heavy machinery. That's hilarious.
So
I know he probably doesn't mean that the way it sounds, but it's hilarious. And he sounds terrible in that chorus. And then, arguably, the worst song I've heard this year. Even worse than anything off of Disturbed or Five Finger Death Punch. And you can tell it by the title alone. Star Spangled Banger is the most egregious Misfit anthem I think I've ever heard in my life. The chorus to that song is as follows. We are electric angels. We are the six-string queens. We are the new dead Kennedys in the land of the brave, home of the freaks, home of the freaks, home of the freaks. First off, no. Just no. That is awful. Second, how dare you mention dead Kennedys in a song this terrible?
Great point.
It is just unbelievable how bad the lyricism is, how bad Brendan sounds on here. Just nothing about this is good. And that's why it's my least favorite album of the year.
How is this possible? How did someone produce this album and be like, yep, Brendan, you are awesome. That is awesome to say T-Rex, make up sex. That dude, you're such a genius.
The only thing I can think of is like, this is what happens. This is the worst case scenario for when an extremely creative person gets full control of a band, finds success, and then just runs it into the ground. Panic at the Disco used to be a band with members, and now it's just Brendan, and he uses their namesake.
Yeah, never a good sign.
Never a good sign. And then, High Hopes does extremely well. It's played on every radio station. It's nonstop. It's everywhere. You can't escape it. And then, so no one's going to tell Brendan Urie what to do after that. He clearly knows how to find success. And he has to be just surrounded by yes men who are afraid to say no.
For sure.
Oh, absolutely.
For
Absolutely.
sure. I will say, since he's, probably, like we mentioned, the only one that produces it, he's the only one who really has a say. I do kind of like the song Viva Las Vengeance. I think it's a really catchy chorus. Don't think it's necessarily a good song, but very catchy. Always gets stuck in my head, and not like in a bad way. So that's the only praise I can muster for this record.
It's certainly the best song on here, but that's
not saying
not
much
saying
better.
anything, really.
The bar's on the ground.
No, boys, the name Viva Las Vengeance reminds me of something. It reminds me of Viva La Mexico. And so I wanted to play a game called Is Your Album Better Than You're Welcome? So who wants to go first?
It's a great
I want to
question.
go first. This is far worse than You're Welcome.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Although that's a fantastic.
That's a good game, though. The thing about this album is it doesn't sound good. Like, the production is bad. His voice sounds bad. Whereas that A Day to Remember album, like we talked about, there are quotes, or not quotes. There are moments that are not half bad.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds fine from a production standpoint. Jeremy doesn't sound terrible. It's just the direction they're going in isn't great.
Yeah.
Where this album has none of that.
Yeah, this album, it's unlistenable.
It's terrible. All right. Can we talk about some good music?
Please, I need it. I'm dying.
All right. That's all we're going to do for the rest of this episode is talk about good music. So now we're going to move in to our EP of the Year awards. Let's just go in the same order. Jeff, I'm going to kick it to you. What is your favorite EP of 2022?
Yeah, so my favorite EP, simply put, is Under the Weight of Things I Couldn't Change by Distinguisher. This EP is absolutely flawless. It's awesome. It's heaviness at its best. The guitars are extremely punchy, so are the drums. The production is really, really good. And it's just from front to back, just insanity with no breaks. And I absolutely love it. In my opinion, by design, the second half of that song is probably my favorite moment of the year, just because of how heavy it is and how raw the screaming is in that song. It's really, really good. And I highly recommend everybody, if you haven't heard this album, please, or this EP, please go check it out, because you will not be disappointed. It's 16 minutes long for 6 songs, and that's how you know it's going to be good, because the average length of the song is like 2 minutes. Just from front to back, it's just pure energy. I could not stop listening to it. By Design was like my 6th or 7th most listened song of the year, and Without End was like 12 just off of this EP. And I adore it to death. So, do you guys have thoughts about it?
Yeah, this EP is disgusting. I remember listening to it when it came out, and I was like, Jeff's gonna love this, first off. But it is really good. Like, the production on here is fantastic. And I mean, like you said, it's nonstop. Like, it never lets up. Mm-hmm. It's just, oh, that breakdown was heavy? Just wait till the end of this song.
Exactly.
You thought that was heavy? Yeah, try this on for size. And it is just relentless. If you like heavy music, if you're into, like, I don't know how you would have heard of Body Snatcher but not Distinguisher, like, it's that same kind of just beat you down until you're like a bloody pulp kind of music. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's heavy. It's so good.
I cannot wait until their full length comes out.
The way it's produced, it just sounds so big, so massive, filling up any room that you're listening to it in. And I don't remember if it was you, Nathan, or Jeff that sent it to the group chat, but I remember listening to it while doing the dishes and being like, yeah, this is violent. This is violent music. Fantastic, though.
It's one of those albums where every time a breakdown hits, you kind of just like stop what you're doing and kind of like chuckle a little bit, just because of how funny, how comically heavy it is. and those are some of my favorite projects. Like, I love that.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, the guitars are just so punchy. Just so punchy. If you play it too loudly, like, it'll give you a headache, a good way. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like you're being hit in the head. So it's awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's not my EP of the year, but I would highly recommend it.
Oh, Kyle,
EP of the year.
Right, EP of the year for me. You know, it's hard to say if this even really counts since it's 2 bands, but I love every song on The Lost and the Longing by Alpha Wolf and Holding Absence. Came out in August, and I listen to these 4 songs very often, on repeat sometimes. 60 Centimeters of Steel is one of Alpha Wolf's best song, if not their best song. And I love the balance of kind of Holding Absence being more post-hardcore and Alpha Wolf being more metalcore, and that it doesn't feel like you're getting breakneck whiplash listening to this record, listening to these 2 bands kind of work together on this project to create something very cohesive, very interesting. Post-hardcore and metalcore are not the same type of music at all, and it works. It works really, really well. Alpha Wolf's breakneck speed with 60 Centimeters of Steel and Hotel Underground, followed by Holding Absence with Aching Longing and Coffin, while members of each band contributing to each song. It's very fun. It's very hard. And it's just kind of right up my alley of metalcore and post-hardcore and a beautiful marriage of those 2 genres.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, the transition between these 2 bands is seamless, which is so impressive because they sound so different.
It's bizarre.
And the way they just fit into each other's sounds is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love Alpha Wolf, so I bump those a little bit more, but this whole EP is really good.
It's the seamlessness of these 2 completely different bands working together and how much I enjoy it. So
I like that pick.
Yeah, I was waiting for Alpha Wolf to release something after A Quiet Place to Die. It was been a couple of years, and I was not disappointed with this EP at all. So it's really, really good. I didn't actually know you liked it that much, Kyle, to be honest.
I didn't either.
Oh yeah, man. Oh, dude, I think I might have mentioned it to you guys. Now remember, this is August 15th, a week before the worst day
Doomsday.
in music history. Yeah. So I know I mentioned it kind of that week once or twice, and then the world ended on August 21st or 22nd or whatever it was. But I've been listening to it ever since. And just one of my friends here in Denver is starting to get into metalcore, and he's like, I really like post-hardcore, but you showed me this EP with Holding Absence, who I love, but I like Alpha Wolf more on this EP than Holding Absence. I was like, my brother, welcome to the club.
Yep. Dude,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I love Alpha Wolf so much.
They're just like, perfect metalcore.
Uh,
Not perfect, obviously, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, they're always going to give you what you want.
that brand of metalcore is so much fun.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That's what I got, boys.
Nice. I like that pick. That's a choice selection.
Respect.
Thank you.
Okay, so that leaves me with my EP of 2022. Now, this is a band that has under 300 monthly listeners. They deserve this shout out, I think, more than any band because this EP is amazing and more people need to listen to it. It came out in January, and my EP of the year is Digital Abacus by Any Given Room. This EP had a chokehold on me all year. And if you like fun, like pop rock, post-hardcore, kind of like that, it's almost like a poppier version of Hail the Sun, maybe? Like that kind of style of progressive post-hardcore, but infused with a lot more pop.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own kind of sound, but it's so much fun. And I just could not stop listening to this all year. Like 4 of my top 5 songs from my Spotify Wrapped were this EP.
That's crazy.
I just couldn't stop listening to it. And like I found this band because they popped up on my release radar with their song Take a Picture because it has a feature from Origami Button, which is another band that I really like.
Mm.
And I just love this. It's easy going. It's laid back. It's poppy. It's fun. And if any of that sounds interesting to you, listen to this band because they deserve so much more monthly listeners than what they have. The production is great. The first track, if you hear the first track and you're like, I like this, listen to the whole thing. It's a quick 18 minutes for 6 tracks. Every track has its own unique personality. Like Take a Picture, which opens the EP. Great, catchy post-hardcore with some fun synth work, some great lyrics. The chorus in that song is tell us what you're thinking. I know it can't be much.
I love that lyric.
That's so snarky, and I love it. It's a long drop, is a super laid back kind of pop rock anthem. Huge chorus. Happy Thoughts is kind of a moody, electronically driven track. And John T. Stanky, special shout out to that song. That's probably my favorite on here. It's just a banger. I can't recommend this enough. I've talked about this band on Twitter quite a bit just because they deserve all the shout outs in the world. This project is amazing. I was blown away by this when it came out just because they're super small and they deserve so much more. If you like fun music, listen to Any Given Room. Listen to this EP.
Yeah, I had no idea what this was when you sent it in the group chat a couple weeks ago, but I've been listening to it nonstop since then. It's so catchy. It's so insanely catchy. And It's a Long Drop has been stuck in my head for weeks. That chorus is so good. And I didn't even realize that this band only had 300 monthly listeners. Before I knew them, when I was just listening to the music, I didn't even look at their Spotify. I could have sworn they had a couple 100,000.
They should.
The music feels like that. It feels like a band that has that many. But 300?
It's crazy.
It's crazy to me.
If the scene had a stock market and you could invest in smaller bands, dude, I'm putting a pretty penny on Any Given Room because they are poised to blow
Well,
up.
do they have any plans of releasing anything else?
I hope so, dude, because they're so good at what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Nathan, if you hadn't picked this as your favorite EP, I would have been hard pressed to choose between Lost and Longing and Digital Abacus.
Yeah.
But I'm glad. I mean, I echo everything you say and more. Just like the snarkiness of some of these songs. Yeah, every single song is possibly the catchiest song you've ever heard.
Oh yeah,
but it's not cheesy, generic catchy. I mean, it's calculated. It's so good, man.
I wish I had more to say about this, like just more depth, but all I need to say is if you like catchy music and you like post-hardcore, listen to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's unreal.
Yep.
It's super impressive. I'm blown away by this EP. Does that wrap up our EP talks?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I can say about it that you haven't already. It's just go listen to it. All three of these EPs, go listen to them.
All right.
Enough stalling. It's time. It's time.
Time for the top 5 AOTY discussion.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, here we go. Okay, so the way we're going to do this, so we're going to go through our list, obviously. We're all going to reveal our number 5s. We'll go in the same order we've been going in. So we'll go Jeff's number 5, Kyle's number 5, then my number 5, and then we'll go on and on and on. But if someone else has the same album in their list somewhere else, we'll all talk about it together, and we'll reveal where it is in our list at that time, and just kind of do like we do a normal episode, just for the sake of consistency and having a smooth discussion. So with that,
before we start, my number 5 has changed.
Whoa! Wow!
Plot twist at the last second.
Yeah, dude. Oh man. Okay. Top fives. Jeffrey, what's the 5th best album you heard this year?
Well, here we go. The 5th best album I heard in 2022, and this might be a little controversial to some of the people in this room, but it's Lorna Shore's Pain. Is probably the limit at how heavy music can be before I start disliking it, to be honest. But it hits a really, really, really good spot in sort of the music that I'm looking for. Because it's heavy, it's fast, it's disgusting. It has some of the most brutal breakdowns I've ever heard in my entire life, period. There's also this mix of like beautifulness to it, with sort of their addition of, you know, the orchestral elements to it, sort of the more melodic undertones to all their songs. It really creates this great synthesis of, on the one hand, you have like this classical orchestra behind the most brutal, disgusting blaz and breakdowns you've ever heard. And it's so unique and different that I had to put it on the top 5. It's awesome. There is no bad song on this album. And I want to especially shout out the last 3 songs, the Pain Remains trilogy. If you're looking to get into Lorna Shore, if you've never heard of them before, if you want to listen to them, listen to those 3 songs first, because it gives you a perfect taste of exactly what you're going to be getting into. Sort of the beautiful like breaks with the classical violins, and then right into a brutal breakdown with crushing guitar and blast beats that, you know, over the craziest lows and highs. I don't know. The whole album to me is just brutal, but it's like beautiful at the same time, if that makes sense. So that's why it's at my number 5.
You mentioned that this is, you know, the heaviest music that you think you can handle. I'd argue that this might be the heaviest music you can make.
That's fair. That's very fair, actually.
Yeah, this record was too heavy for me. I listened to it once and was like, "Yep, not going back to that one." But
Yeah,
I see why you like it.
Teeters on the line for sure. It definitely. I have to be in the right mood for it, but when I am, there's nothing better. Like it's exact. Like if you're looking for that kind of music, Lorna Shore is what you should be listening to.
I would say this didn't make my top 5, and it's just not particularly a style of deathcore that I enjoy. I'm very particular with what kind of deathcore I like. And I do have a deathcore album in my top 5, but it's not this one. I understand why people like it, and I respect Lorna Shore a lot for what they're doing with making something like this and being so popular. Like, that is awesome. And I think that's great for music. I think that's great for the scene. I just don't think it's for me particularly.
That is fair.
And that's the only reason it's not on my list.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to sort of enjoy what they're producing. You have to sort of enjoy the music, and it's definitely not going to be for everybody. So I definitely understand. It's great. Go check it out.
Awesome.
My number 5, it's ironic because I just said Lorna Shore was a little too heavy for me. But my number 5 is This World Is Going to Ruin You by Vane.fm.
Oh,
Okay.
The band formerly known as Vane. Arizona, their 2018 album, is unbelievable. I mean, Arizona is chaotic and beautiful and bizarre. They followed it up with something even more chaotic, yet there's some control to the chaos. Every song on this album is going to slosh your brain from one side of your head to the other. There's no I mean, like, guys, there's no elements where it's like, man, that is just some real artistic beauty. Now they are trying to kick you in the teeth and take all the money from your pockets and just make you feel like, what did I just hear? I want to hear that again. And when you start to digest it, man, this record is amazing. You can listen to this and it will get you amped up in any situation, anytime, anywhere. I love their brand and what they do, and just they're crazed. It just sounds crazed, and I love it. I love what they've produced. I mean, Welcome Home, just straight off the bat, off the tee, they're going for it. They're going for your throat, and everything else is seamless. There's no whiplash because your neck is at the back of the headset, the headpiece, the head, whatever you call it in the car, the entire ride. You are not braking until this album stops after 32 minutes and 11 seconds of pure chaos. Funeral Sound is an unbelievable closer. Orgy in the Morgue, I'm sorry, the title of the song is a little bit graphic, but fantastic. What these guys do, they just, listen, they haven't missed with 2 records, boys, and it doesn't look like they're stopping anytime soon. They've really made me a happy man for quite a while, and this was my 4 until Friday, so I love this record.
All right. I would absolutely need to give this another spin because I think my brain was a little too scrambled the first time I heard it. And unfortunately, I didn't have time to go back to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely listened to this in March when it came out, but I guess it didn't stick. I definitely need to go back and listen to it as well.
Throughout the year, I'm like, yeah, this is album of the year candidacy. Mm-hmm. And it obviously got overthrown throughout the year, but I love Vane. I want to give them their flowers because they're one of the first bands I started listening to in college that was this heavy. This is honestly probably the heaviest I'll go, and it's arguably, I guess, heavier than Lorna Shore, just in a different way.
Yeah,
it's just a lot more chaotic, a lot less structure, but for some reason it does it for me. And every song is a roller coaster that, hey, put your diapers on, boys, because it's going to get crazy.
That's awesome.
That's a great description for what I like. I remember Arizona, and I remember enjoying that a lot, especially Virus Vibrance.
Yeah.
The other way around. That song is amazing.
Yeah, dude. Broken Glass Complexion, Virus Vibrance, and Arizona off of that record are top shelf. Sorry,
yeah.
I hate to cut you off.
Vane is awesome. I need to go back and listen to this again. So definitely check that out.
Nathan, your number 5 is still on the board, my brother.
It is. And this album is one that I was honestly so surprised it made my list, but I just kept coming back to it after it came out. I thought it was going to fall just outside, but my number 5 album of the year is Color Decay by The Devil Wears Prada. Is this on any of y'all's lists? I gotta know.
That's my number 4.
My number 3.
Okay. So we can all have a nice little discussion about The Devil Wears Prada right now.
Oh, definitely. They deserve it.
They absolutely deserve it. This album is really, really great. And, you know, there's something about it that's special. Because it's not every day a metalcore album can come out and just, you know, bring tears to my eyes very casually. But, like, listening to the lyrics in Trapped, I just remember, like, this is so special. And, like, those lyrics hit really close to home for me. Like, when he says, I know that you're feeling trapped by your issues, but I'm here with you. Like, I feel like I've been blessed enough in my life that I've never struggled with any serious, like, mental issues or like depression or anxiety or anything like that to a severe level. But I have really close friends who have. And like just that lyric, I feel like you don't see that perspective very often in this genre of music. Just like that, I know that you're going through this thing that's really hard, but I'm right here with you. And I want to walk through that alongside you. I just remember driving home from work one of the first times I heard that and just like tearing up a little bit. And then Cancer also gets to me. And both of those songs, like, to have 2 songs on a metalcore album make me choke up a little, that's special, dude. That's how you know you have a special metalcore album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Speaking of Cancer, like, I sat at the edge of my bed and just kind of, like, stared forward after I heard that song and, like, kind of realized the meaning of, obviously I didn't come up with this by myself. I looked it up on Reddit, like a gentleman. But just, yes, I mean, lead singer, one of his idols died. And before the details came out, he was thinking, man, I hope that it's cancer and not like a drug overdose or suicide, because I don't need any more things that I don't want to talk about. And he kind of reflected and like, so I'm wishing one of the most painful illnesses on somebody so that, you know, I can feel better. Mm-hmm. What does that say about myself? I don't know, man. I thought about that for a long time because that's a lot of the time that's my thought process when someone dies. I'm just like, man, I hope it's not something that is hard to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, I hope they had a disease. I hope it was a horrible accident that was out of their hands. And that's real messed up. And the depth that you have to go into yourself to realize that and to put it into some extremely meaningful, beautiful art sets this album apart. And it's amazing, man.
Yeah, I think the album art for this album really captures, I think, the atmospheric feel of every song on this record. There is like a very, very sort of sad, retrospective feel throughout every single song. I really, really like that consistency. You know, every song feels like it belongs to that album cover. You know what I mean? But just talking more about the music, like, this album has some really catchy tunes as well.
Oh yeah.
Like I told you guys, I don't know if you remember, it was like a month or 2 ago. I was like, Noise is so catchy that it hurts. Like, I'm physically hurting at how catchy that song is. Watchtower 2, insanely catchy. Very, very, very good song. Salt as well. Great. And so you just go down the list, and each of these songs, they have a really, really important message, I think. But not only on top of that, they have an insanely consistent atmosphere with catchy hooks, and can even bring on the heaviness when they want to, like in Exhibition, like in Noise, like in Hallucinate, stuff like that. They can bring on the heaviness when they want to. This album is different. You know, it's kind of weird for me to go from Lorna Shore to Color Decay. I think that they do it so well. I would be completely amiss to not put this, you know, within the top 5.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about 25 yet, I don't believe. And the catchiness yet gut-wrenchingness of how could you want to leave, put down just a memory, been holding on by a string. And you're listening to that, man, like, man, this is a really catchy song. And then you start listening to the lyrics and you're like, I'm going to go cry now for a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, to have that emotional weight on an album and then have that balance so well with like the heavy instrumentals on here. It's like the fact that you can have a song like Watchtower and also a song like Trapped or a song like Cancer on the same album and it's still coherent. That's incredible.
Yeah.
You know, we'll probably do this band for an episode one day, but I think this is probably their best album. Like, I've always been kind of the mindset that their EPs are stronger than their albums. this completely changed that because this album is amazing. Just everything about it.
Mm-hmm. The delivery is so raw and like emotional and like
Yeah.
real, from the heaviness to the sad songs, from the the screaming, the semi screaming that happens, to the sad cleans. Like, it just feels so real. Like, you can really feel the emotional weight behind every word. It really strikes a chord. It's really, really good.
Yeah, one of my closest friends here, I recommended this album to, and he's a big music guy, got a great ear for music, and he comes back to me, he's like, man, his screams are way out of tune, it's off of pitch, not for me. He comes back to me 2 weeks later and said, man, I haven't stopped listening to this record. Like, I gave it another shot, and like it just kind of clicked.
Yeah.
So this album sticks, and it's a work of art, man.
I think it is ever so slightly of a grower because the first time I heard it, I was like, I like this, but it's not album of the year contender probably for me. Which, like, I recognize it's a great album, but it's just not quite my taste. But I just kept coming back to it. I couldn't stop, and I think it's like there is that variety there where you have heavy songs with like really catchy choruses and great breakdowns, like Watchtower or Exhibition, Noise, Hallucinate, like all those songs. And then there's also those like devastating, beautiful tracks. And I think they do some really interesting things instrumentally on here as well that I really like, where at the end of time, they repeat the chorus over the breakdown at the end. Like, I feel like I don't hear that a lot, but that's such a simple concept and it works so well. This album is just so creative. It's so fresh. It's amazing. I was blown away by this album once it clicked.
There's definitely a grower on me as well. Probably honestly will be higher as I keep listening to it. Probably bump it up a space or two on my top 5. But I'm gonna leave it there for now. But I'm definitely gonna keep listening to it.
I think it definitely has staying power. Yeah, great album. It's in all of our top 5s at different places. But
yeah,
it's great.
My number 3, Nathan's number 5, Jeff's number 4.
So Jeff, since that was your number 4, we've already talked about it. Kyle, it's up to you. What's your number 4?
Boys, you guys, I'm sure, are very familiar as my number 4 is The Unraveling of Pup the Band by Pup. So Nathan sent this text in a group chat last week and was like, Kyle, you're the type of guy to have this Pup album in your top 5. I listened to this Pup album in April, and I didn't remember it because I had Habits downloaded. And I was like, I must have listened to it when it dropped because I really, really like Morbid Stuff, their 2019 record. I don't really remember why I didn't come back to it. I just didn't. And so I was like, I'll give it another shot. On repeat, man. This album is fascinating. It's kind of that, I don't even really know how to describe it. Just kind of, it's poppier punk music, but it's not pop punk. It's not like your Stand Atlantic pop punk. It's got a lot more fiddler to it. It's got a lot more the Mountain Goats to it, where it's super eclectic, super bizarre, and there's just kind of like an existential crisis feel throughout the whole thing. You know, who are we as a band? All the interludes are talking about like how the band is akin to a company, and there's like the record label and their managers and producers are like the board of directors, to where like they don't really have any creative direction to go anymore, which I think is a hilarious and pretty genius like creative direction to go. To like your band is akin to a Fortune 500 company, and you still don't really have any control over it, even though you're the one that makes it float. And they're just really interesting concepts in here, like Robot Writes a Love Song, which is my personal favorite song on this album, is about 2 robots that are writing a love song to each other. And it's super cheesy, super corny, unbelievably catchy, very, very interesting instrumentally. Matilda is about a guitar that's writing a sad song that her owner has stopped playing her. and which is just like what? But like, yeah, I mean, the chorus is literally like, "You don't even play me anymore, anyhow." It's so catchy, so interesting. The concepts, the ideas, habits, fantastic, totally fine, very good. Four chords, the opening track. This guy is talking about the board of directors, and then it kind of just explodes into this frenzy of synth, orchestra, guitars, all under a punk fuzz. It's beautiful, man. I really have come to enjoy this album, and I really appreciate Nathan for being like, "Hey, yo, Kyle, you're the type of dude to have this in your top 5," because I am the type of dude to have this in my top 5 because it's my number 4.
That's so funny. I'm glad I reminded you of this album. I enjoyed it thoroughly when I listened through it as I was going kind of back through some albums I wanted to revisit for this. It does remind me a lot of Fiddler. You hit the nail on the head. It's not pop punk, but it's poppy punk.
Yeah.
It's just fuzzy. It sounds like they made this in a garage. I love the attitude, like the kind of, it's not quirky. It's like, it's funny. It's a funny album. Like
Yeah.
the concepts are funny. And I like that.
It is fun.
I definitely need to
It's
check
fun.
it out after this for sure.
The album cover is also very
Insanity.
bizarre.
That's
But
so funny.
yeah, if you want to listen to Pup, listen to Morbid Thoughts, their 2019 record, and then The Unraveling of Pup, the band, because both of these records are fantastic, and this band comes into its own in both of them, especially this one creatively. So
Yeah.
Mm.
It's so meta.
all right, that's all I got, boys.
Cool. So I'll move on to my number 4 album of the year. And I had this album a little lower on the list originally, but the more I listened to it, the more I enjoyed it. And that is Euthanasia by Stray from the Path.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
Stray from the Path, I've been a fan of for quite some time now. And I feel like their last 3 albums, especially, they've kind of found a very specific sound that they use. Just a massive guitar tone. And, you know, Drew York just spitting hatred throughout this album. He is very angry, but it works so well. And it's a very coherent album. And I think the one word I would use to describe it is antagonistic, but in a really good way. Because Straight from the Path is the kind of band, they're very political, they wear their beliefs on their sleeves, and I mess with it, you know? They're fed up with a lot of the things they see in the world, and they want to call for change, and I'm all for that. You should use your music for that. Obviously, that's going to rub some people the wrong way and turn them away from this, but man, I love this album. And I think the opening riff on here is such a great mission statement for what's about to come. And it encapsulates everything that they're about to do. It's got this super bouncy riffs, an incredible drumming performance from Craig Reynolds, and he's just constantly playing with the tempo. And the lyric, oh my gosh, I love this lyric. It's so good. Are you in or in the way? As like a mission statement for the album is perfect. The perfect opening track for this. And I love their sound. The leads add so much flavor. The drums are so crisp and complex. And then the occasional use of a sample on here is just unreal. And the one song that really sticks out to me in particular is Chest Candy with the I don't know what I've been told. The way that sample sits in this weird little pocket in the song is borderline brilliant, because by all means it should not fit with everything else that's going on, but it adds just this interesting rhythmic texture that is awesome. And like I briefly mentioned, Drew York, I think he's giving possibly his best performance with Straight from the Path yet. Like, he just sounds so angry and it comes through so well. And then there are also other tracks where he sounds desperate, like it's not just anger anymore. It sounds like he's exhausted by all of it and just wants change so bad, but nothing's changing. And I think where that comes through the best is louder work, which is easily the best closing track of their career. Maybe one of the best closing tracks I've heard all year. The way where it's like, to meet the requirements for euthanasia, and the sample of this woman explaining it and then it getting more distorted and more distorted under the atmosphere. Oh my gosh, it's haunting. It's so good. This album slaps.
Yeah, I love this pick, Nathan. I mean, you got Guillotine, you got Chest Candy, as you talked about, Ladderwork, Needful Things. I love part 3. I know it's their by far most politically charged song of this album.
But it's great.
The wordplay on that song is both hysterical and unbelievable. Even the intro to that song is about as hard as it comes. So I love this album. I think you nailed it on the head, especially with Drew York's performance, both lyrically and just his ability to bring real power into kind of this, rap metal persona he has around him.
Yeah, I listened through this once and I enjoyed it. I definitely need to listen to it again. The song that I had saved and that I listen to all the time is Guillotine. That's just the one.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know why I saved that one. I guess because it was a single. But I've listened to that song so many times, and it's so high energy. And I love the part where he's like, I want to see you buy your way out of this. That part in that song is so good. It's just he's so angry. You can feel it. It comes out of my headphones.
Dude, I remember when that song came out, I was like, oh, this next album is gonna be angry.
And it was.
And it is. Straight from the Path just knows how to make a song bounce. And it's so fun to listen to. One of the more interesting ones where they try something a little different, Law Abiding Citizen has such an interesting rhythm to it, and it's impossible not to bob your head as you're listening to it. And then it just gets progressively kind of heavier. It's so good. I could not recommend this album more. Also, a couple great blez on here, which is just the cherry on top.
Yeah, take that, Architects.
Yeah, take that. Embrace it. And you might make top 5.
My first true metalcore concert was seeing Straight from the Path and at Walters with you boys.
Yep.
That was a great show.
Awesome.
They're so good live.
We also saw Sharptooth. Anyways, next, gentlemen.
Yeah, Jeff, what's your number 3?
Yeah, so my number 3 is To Only a Few at First by Royal Coda.
That is my number 2 album of the year.
That's awesome. This album really washed the taste of Dance Gavin Dance out of my mouth. And I think for that fact alone, it deserves a lot of praise.
Wow.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Coming out swinging.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I had the exact same note, so I will not tell you you're wrong.
And I hate to talk about this album by bringing up another band, so I'm going to stop. Man, this is close to a flawless record. I mean, I can't think of a single bad song on here. Every song is incredibly unique. They all have their amazing elements. They're all catchy. They're all fun, high energy, except for It Found a Different Path, but that's more relaxed and chill for a reason. And that's why it's probably my favorite song on here. But every song on here has that one moment, and they usually happen at the end where they switch up the rhythm and switch up the instrumentation. And you're just like, where did that come from? But I'm not complaining, I don't know where that switch was, I didn't see it coming, but I'm definitely not complaining because, and it helps to keep the songs from getting stale. And usually what I've seen with this album is that they'll repeat a chorus once or twice, and then they'll switch it up. And I really, really like that. And so while you're listening through the 37 minutes, 44 seconds of this album, you're never getting bored. I really can't say that for many other records that came out this year, particularly one big band that I will not mention again. In terms of songs not getting boring, which is something that this record really does well. I don't know what else to say except that this record is awesome. Every single song on here is worth a download. In fact, I have all of them downloaded. They're all catchy. I think one astute thing that Nathan said when we were first listening to this album is that this album truly feels like the album cover. When you're looking at the colorfulness and the flashiness and just the craziness of the album cover, the music supplements that so well. And I really, really enjoy it. I don't know what else to say. I mean, sometimes the songs feel like there's like aliens fighting, there's like lasers happening and stuff. And other times it's like more relaxed and kind of, you have like the background vocals sort of coming in. I don't know. It's beautiful. I really, really enjoy it. I don't know, Nathan, what do you have to say about it?
Dude, I love this album. Royal Coda is a band I've followed since their inception just because I love Kurt Travis's voice. I loved him in every band he's been in so far. But I think this is probably my favorite Kurt Travis project. This is easily Royal Coda's strongest album to date. It's just amazing. I can echo a lot of what Jeff said. I will bring up the band we didn't want to mention again, but I remember during our listening party when we listened to Dance Gavin Dance's new album, we were all super let down by it. And I remember during that I said I wouldn't be surprised if Dance Gavin Dance was Will Swan's kind of safety project. Like it's a guarantee hit. He can just like, it's not his creative outlet, it's his paycheck. And then Royal Coda is his favorite or his artistic expression project. And then Jeff, when we were listening to this together,
You're right. 100%.
I mean, that confirmed it. We talked about that. We're like, that is the nail on the head right there. This is Will Swan's, let me try some things, let me have some fun creatively. While the other band is just, let me get this paycheck so I can do my creative outlets now. And this album is amazing. Obviously, the guitar parts are super fun, super interesting, always engaging with crazy bouncy rhythms, intricate leads. Kurt sounds phenomenal on here, and the hooks are always huge. The soundscapes that they put together are so interesting. I mean, I had a note, I don't know how to describe them other than most of the time they sound like they're the album cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what Jeff kind of already mentioned. It's like, it's true. And just to go over some of my favorite songs on here, We Slowly Lose Hope for Things to Come. To me, that song sounds like it's a progression of the sound from Happiness. So if you missed that, listen to this. And it's amazing. Insatiate the Senses is just a smooth song with a great hook. Screen Time Overload, super bouncy, super catchy, super great groove. And then you mentioned this one. It Found a Different Path is one of my favorite songs of this year. The slow change of pace, the key change in the second verse, the little hits on the guitar like throughout the verses. It's just unreal how good this song is.
Yep, completely agree.
I don't know. I could go on and on about how much I love this. Bottom line, great album. Easily the best swancore progressive post-hardcore album of this year. And it's not close.
By far. Yeah, completely agree.
right.
Only thing I would say is I think Screen Time Overload is one of the best songs of the year for me.
It's really good.
Yeah, this was definitely one that I considered to put in top 5. You guys hit it on the head. I'm not going to add anything else. Kurt Travis is awesome.
I love Kurt, dude. The GOAT. Okay. So Kyle, we already talked about your number 3, which was Color Decay. So that means we're throwing it back over to me for my number 3, and then we'll move on to our number 2s.
I have a feeling that your number 3 is going to be my number 2, brother.
I doubt that.
Okay.
I seriously doubt that because my number 3 is something really gross and grimy. My number 3 album of the year is Oni by Darko.
Like the beginning of a song. Trust me, I think it'd be sick.
Oh,
Yeah, definitely not my number 2.
Oh, wow. That is grimy.
This album is disgusting. And Darko just scratches like a certain primal itch in my brain that I can't seem to get scratched anywhere else. Like even other deathcore bands don't scratch it the way that Darko does. And I think for me, what Darko does that I love so much is the combination of these insanely fast, insanely intricate rhythms with the synth elements that they throw on top of it in the atmosphere. I just love it so much. For me, this is kind of my preferred sound of deathcore, where it's like these punishingly groovy, bouncy breakdowns as opposed to kind of the blast beats and symphonic elements of something like Lorna Shore. And then like the tempo is cut in half and we're going super disgusting for a minute. I kind of like this where it's just constantly bouncy. The rhythm is constantly changing. And I mean that is no disrespect to Lorna Shore. I'm just saying that that's not my cup of tea, whereas this is. And I just can't think of another band that's doing exactly what Darko is. Certainly no one's doing it as well as them. And Tom Barber just sounds like an animal all the way through this project. His vocals are insane. They're just gross. The sounds he makes on here, just not human. They're just not right. And it's so fun listening to a Darko song for the first time because, you know, it's always heavy. And then there's a bit you know coming that's just going to be heavier. And it's going to get so over the top, but you never know quite how they're going to do it. But then also throw in a couple of like the most beautiful kind of shoegazy sounds you've ever heard from a deathcore band. Like Come Home with Rory from Dayseeker is the weirdest collab of the year, I think, but it works so well because Rory's performance on that song is amazing. This album is gross. I think some of my favorite songs on here, Dragon Chaser, the intro to that song is funny where he's like, I think it'd be cool if we had a song like ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, and then they do that, and it is cool. Evolving with the vocalist from Unity, Texas is amazing, and that feature to end the track with that breakdown is just jaw-dropping. Sanskrit is just a flex with their synths that come in there towards the beginning of the song. And then the breakdown at the end with the kind of reversed atmosphere. Dude, this album, if you like heavy stuff, if you like breakdowns, if you like synth, listen to this. It's gross.
Yeah, I had no idea you'd have it ranked so high. I had no idea you liked it that much. I definitely need to go check it out again.
There's just something about Darko that I can't keep myself away from.
They're a lot of fun.
They are a lot of fun. It's fun deathcore. Their album last year was my number one, I think.
Really?
Granted, that didn't matter because we didn't have a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, I really like that.
True.
Kyle, do you have any thoughts on this album? I know you're a big deathcore guy, right?
Yeah, didn't listen, but I will also probably not listen because I know I don't like Darko that much. So
Yeah. Which is fair. It's a lot to take in.
Now, I say that though, and I have Vane as my number 5. So
It's
Vane
true.
is different though.
it's quite
It's
yeah,
different.
I mean, they are
It's a
different.
different
but-
sound, I think.
I think so too. But that's all I have to say about Darko. That's my number 3.
All right, Jeff, roll out that number 2, big guy.
Time to get controversial.
Number 2 is not a time to get controversial, Jeff.
It is for me.
Yeah,
Oh, boy.
no, number 1 is putting Architects as his favorite discography to discuss. But
Whoops.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Number 2. I have Thornhill's 2022 project, Heroin.
Wow.
Yep.
Hey, really?
Oh yeah. No,
Really?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Put it on me,
Why?
dude.
Yeah, my question
good
too. My
question.
question too. Great question, Nathan.
When this album came out in June, I listened through the first couple songs and turned it off. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I actually did that and never returned to it. So
Okay, well that's where we differ because I did return to it recently in the last couple months. I was up late last night and I was listening through their 2019 project, The Dark Pool, because that's just a classic.
Banger.
And I was like, what about their newest album? I heard it once. What if I listened to it again? And I put it on and I was shocked at how good this project was. This album is basically a dark love album. It's so unique in its presentation. It's really, really hard to describe. But the lyrics are a lot about love and yearning and longing with very, very dark undertones and dark instrumentation. And I don't think anyone else has done something like this before. I just think it works so, so well because of the consistent atmosphere throughout the entire thing. It flows as if it's one long sort of movie almost, where you can sort of see the scenes playing out in your head. The delivery, the vocal delivery is so powerful, especially in like the Hellfire Club and Blue Velvet and Heroin. The lead singer, you can feel the raw emotion that Thornhill is known for, but without a lot of the heaviness that they used to have. I will say, granted, the heaviness is gone from this album. It's not very heavy at all. There's like one heavy part. I think it's like in Leather Wings or something. I don't even know. But that's it. The rest of it, it's all cleans over heavier guitars. But it's beautiful. It truly, truly is beautiful. I just don't know how else to describe it, except if you're looking for like atmospheric metal with beautiful cleans and extremely catchy hooks, then I say please go listen to this project because you will not be disappointed. I know I wasn't. I mean, throw this album on when you're driving at night and you're starting to get a little emotional. I promise you this project will not disappoint you in that. It's great late night driving music. And I know I've said that I've always been a fan of cleans over sort of heavy guitar. And that's exactly what this album is. That's all it is. It's weird, but like with really, really beautiful atmosphere behind it. I don't really know what else to say. I was wrong. I have to admit, the first time I heard it, I feel bad for not trusting Thornhill. And to be fair, I mean, this is definitely a departure from their old sound, for sure. And everyone is not going to like it. It definitely is different. But I can see what they're going for with this. I can definitely see what they want, what they're trying to do. And it's really good. I really like it.
I will say, I really like the track Arkangel. That song is a banger.
Yeah, that song is awesome.
But the thing that holds this album back for me is the production a little bit. Like the vocals are just buried.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if they adjusted that a little bit, I would like this album a lot more than I currently do.
Oh, that's definitely fair. Yeah, the vocals are definitely buried behind the instrumentation, for sure.
Yeah, I need to re-listen.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. I definitely don't think it's as good as the Dark Pool. Dark Pool it definitely is a masterpiece. But this one it's pretty close. It's closer than I gave it at a first glance. So highly recommend you guys check it out again. It's really good.
I just might go back to it. I like Thornhill. Dark Pool's great. The Reptile EP, I think is what it's called, is when I got into them. Bangs. That's probably still my favorite project by them, personally. But
really? Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know you liked their EP more than the Dark Pool.
Might just be the bias from that's when I got into them. So that's like what I knew them for a while.
Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Nice.
All I got to say.
All right, Kyle. Number 2 album of the year, please.
My number 2 album is Oh What the Future Holds by Fit for an Autopsy.
Wow.
Whoa.
And I'm pretty surprised you guys didn't have this on your list either. Like, I mean, this is probably this has got to be the first metalcore album, deathcore album, scene album that came out this year. It came out in January, beginning of January. I listened to it then. I loved it. I've come back to it throughout the year, and it's held up for me. And the last month, I've really enjoyed listening to it, almost to the point where it's been about every day. Two Towers is an out-of-body experience. It's hard emotionally. It's hard to describe what that song does because of how heavy it is. Yet how there are some melodic, hard-hitting moments where you're just like, yeah, my soul will leave my body right now. Collateral Damage is also one of my favorites off this record. Obviously, In the Shadows is amazing. Conditional Healing is really good. I mean, every single song, if you sat down and listened to it, at least from my perspective, it's incredible. The depth at which they hit. I'm not a real blast beat guy, and this is one of the first albums that does it in a way where I really enjoy a blast beat every now and then. He also pulls off some cleans, which is pretty new for Fit for an Autopsy, at least my knowledge of the band. And his cleans are pretty awesome. They're pretty cool. And so I don't know, man. I love this album. It's been kind of a mainstay this year for me. Pandora, fantastic. Far From Heaven. Yeah, why don't you go bash your brains in, bro?
Oh.
Unbelievable song. I really do, man. Fit for an Autopsy hasn't missed in a while in the deathcore game and in the album cover game. Boys, their album covers
Real.
Big agree.
hard pressed to find better album covers in the game. They I think they're like the 2015 album, pretty lame album cover. Other than that, everything hits. Everything's a banger. And you're listening to this. My words aren't enough to describe this album and how much I love it and how much I respect them for making it and how hard it is. And I just think some of the best songs on their discography are in here, and there's not one bad song on this record.
Yeah, dude. Fit for an Autopsy, they have their sound and it slaps. Like, they're really good at what they do. I think In Shadows is probably my favorite song on here. And that song is just nuts.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's definitely contender for like song of the year, and that was like the only real one. I mean, this album definitely didn't hook me as quickly as Sea of Tragic Beasts did on a first listen.
Sure. Sea of Tragic Beasts is in another league, in my opinion. But
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to go back and listen to this one though. Yeah, I'm definitely surprised you have. It's just one of those things where it's like I just didn't realize you liked it so much, which I guess I'm realizing with a lot of y'all's projects is I got to go back and listen.
Well, in the last month, it really, really took hold.
Okay.
That's when I really realized, oh, this is special, and this is really, really interesting to the point where, I've been listening to it 3 or 4 times a week.
I'm definitely going to check it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back because I think I'm kind of in the same boat as Jeff, where it's like I listened to it, I wasn't really grabbed by anything outside of In Shadows, really, which is an amazing song. But I need to go back and give this another spin. It seems.
Me too.
Yeah, I think the 3 songs following In Shadows, Two Towers, A Higher Level of Hate, and Collateral Damage, are on the same level, if not better.
I'm definitely going to listen to this again.
Definitely gonna have to go back.
Yep.
I like that choice though. I like that made one of our lists.
Yeah, I'm really.
It's not the list I thought it was gonna be.
Well, I'm really enjoying seeing these lists, boys.
Dude, me too.
We get some good variety.
Which is fun.
But there's no variety in our number ones.
Exactly.
No, should we all just say it together?
So that'll make for great podcasting.
Yeah, great podcasting, all speaking over each other. Jeff, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
What is all 3 of our number 1 albums?
So the number 1 album for each of us for 2022 is Trinity by The Gloom in the Corner. Where do you even begin with a project like this?
The album cover.
Okay, so the album cover,
Awesome.
I think, is a little controversial.
I think it's the weakest part of the
I
album.
was gonna say
I don't
that.
love it.
Yeah, it's not my favorite thing about it.
But that's my only complaint about this album. For real.
Yeah, me too.
You guys are losers. I love it. It's awesome.
Okay. You know, we share number 1 and you call us losers.
Yeah.
Cool. That's how it is.
Yep.
This was a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, like, literally, you hear this the first time, you're like, an act of God will have to happen for this to not be album of the year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is just head and shoulders above every other album that came out this year. It's not even close.
Yeah, I was
like, from the second it came out, it's all I've wanted to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was so hyped for this album. Gloom didn't release an album in years. The last thing they released was that EP, Misanthropic EP. So
they did have a 3-song EP.
Oh,
2019, 2020. What was that?
20 something. You're right. Yes. So they had, they released singles. I guess their last true longer project was the Misanthropic EP, and before that, I mean, you're going back years before their last full length.
2016 was their last full length album.
That's
hey Jeff, say Misanthropic one more time.
Misanthropic.
You got it. Sound it out.
Misanthropic. Anyway, so I was really hyped for this.
Weird.
The M EP. It's been a while since that one came out.
That's not even what it's called. It's called Flesh and Bones.
Oh. The first song is misanthropic.
Gosh, you really are struggling with
So-
that. For a guy in med school, you're struggling with that word.
It's a
So
lot of syllables.
it's long, okay? So we were all really, really hyped for this project. And I remember thinking, I really hope it doesn't disappoint because I'm sort of hedging my bets on this thing that is good. I need it to be good. And boy, it's so good. From beginning to end, you sort of get everything. You get beautiful moments, the soft clean, the great cleans, and then you get the heavy moments, the super heavy guitar riffs. But even more than that, and I really want to shout this out, is that the features in this album are incredible on all the songs.
Yep.
Every single time there's like a female voice, it's arguably the best point on the song, in my opinion. I was sort of talking, in Gatekeeper, you have that part. In Nor Hella Fury, Obliteration Imminent. Like whenever there's a female vocal part, it's always awesome. And so I love that they were able to sort of bring those elements into each song. It just adds to the experience so much. I think the most important part about this album is that they're telling a story. And so, with a story, you need to have characters. And so I think with all those voices sort of coming in, it adds to the atmosphere. You really do feel like there's a lot of characters. There's a lot happening at every moment. You'll be hard pressed to find that anywhere else in the scene, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's not only the fact that they're telling a story, but it's their commitment to telling the story. Like, the commitment to the storytelling. You hear so often, oh, this album's telling a story, but there's not, characters with distinct voices because it's a band, and usually they have one or two singers or screamers or whatever. But the Gloom in the Corner brought in vocalists to, play characters in these songs. No one else is doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's awesome.
And that's what sticks out to you when you hear it is, and it helps you follow the story.
Yeah.
Which I mean, not many bands are telling a story, and if they are, you can't really follow it that well. It's great to see Gloom doing that, especially with really small time artists as well.
Yeah.
All their features are pretty, other than Ryan Kirby, of course.
Yeah.
Lauren Babbage from the Crazy 88, us three are a big fan of that band.
Sure.
And her performance in Pandora's Box is excellent. One of my favorite parts of the album is the transition from Heaven to Hell and Obliteration Imminent. I mean, the Bound Down to the Queen of Misanthropy part, that's an Obliteration Imminent, right? Yeah, I want to say it is, with the techno breakdown deal that goes on after they say that. Anyways, that's probably one of my favorite parts of the record. And the fact that that's up top and you have, endless opportunities to look forward to after hearing those first two songs of From Heaven to Hell isn't necessarily a heavy song, at least the first half of it isn't. And then going into a song called Obliteration Imminent, you think that song's not going to be heavy, but it's unbelievable. Ronin, Black Rot, New Order. Yeah, there's not one bad moment. There's not one bad lyric. There's not one bad note in this entire album. And you're hard pressed to find any album that's the truth for.
Yeah.
This is I know we're talking about album of the year. Boys, this is in contention for album of the decade, and I have no problem saying that right now.
Oh, easily.
Easily. Yeah. The only competition is the Gloom in the Corner. What they do next.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm convinced that we could get to the end of this decade and be boys, since 2012, there have been very few albums that match this level of perfection.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I love it.
It is. And I think one of the things that's so important and what helps them achieve that is just the amount of care that was poured into each and every one of these tracks. I saw something online about something that they used 600 audio tracks in this album.
Wow.
Just to give you some perspective, Welcome to Horrorwood by Ice Nine Kills had 150 audio tracks.
Wow.
And that just shows they were so diligent in the creation of this album. And the result is 13 perfect tracks. And not only that, these tracks are so dense and filled with so many different parts and moments and things going on. And I think the perfect example of that is Gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Instrumentally, there is a chorus section to this song, but there's not a repeated vocal melody in the song that carries over with the chorus. And what's brilliant about the way they pull that off is there are memorable moments in the way that chorus is built instrumentally. Like there's a rhythmic change halfway through it, and then there's like this cool little guitar riff that they do that acts as kind of an anchor point. And then when that's repeated later, you're like, oh, I recognize this, but the vocal melody is different.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like the tag at the end of the chorus that they do like once in the entire song, and it's amazing. I just love the way that this album was written. The vocals are amazing. It's constantly fresh, like with what I was talking about with all those changing parts. It's like a revolving door of musical parts in here. And it's brutally heavy, and it's beautiful other times. The lore and the story is just completely unhinged at this point. And not only are they telling a story on this album, they've been telling a story since the inception of the band. And like as I was listening to this album when it came out, I was kind of reading the YouTube descriptions where they write kind of what's going on in the story at this point. And there are plot twists, and like you can kind of follow it, and like something's revealed at the end of the album that I was like, oh my gosh, that's actually huge. You know, I don't want to spoil it because you should experience it, but it's just so cool how much care they put into the story. And I'm so curious as to whether they write the beats for the story first, like what's going to happen, or if they write the music first. They have to have an outline with where they want to go. I don't know. There's just so much depth on here. It's so good.
And they have the audacity to put in red clouds.
I know.
It sounds like it's from like a play or something.
Yeah.
But it feels so in place with the album though. That's the thing. It doesn't sound out of place at all. And then they follow up Red Clouds with Nor Hella Fury, which is arguably one of the heaviest songs I've ever heard.
It's nuts.
It's insane from beginning to end. The song before that, Gravity, you know what that song reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of Flossy Dicky Bounce from Mothership. Is that weird? Because
yes,
because you
never had that thought. Never.
You have the first half.
I've never once.
Okay, hear me out here. You have the first half, which is high energy craziness, and then it switches to a second half, which is beautiful and filled with cleans and completely separate, I think, from the beginning. And that's what this song does. You have the first half is absolute craziness, and then he falls through the portal, and then you have just the singing and the slowness as he's like falling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. The only song I could really like compare it to is Flossy Dicky Bounce, because Dance Gavin Dance kind of does something similar. I know. If you can even understand that at all.
We're talking a lot about that band tonight.
They have no we didn't, they don't have a single project we talked about, but they've been mentioned quite a bit. Kind of strange.
Yeah, that's curious.
That's an interesting take, Jeff, but
yeah, I don't think I'm gonna cut that out.
Aw. Aw.
Oh, kidding.
Not Jeff's Flossy Dicky Bounce take.
I'll keep it in just for you.
Can we agree that "Hail to the King" is the best song on this album?
Not just this album. That's the best song that came out this year.
All right, cool. But glad at least one person agrees with me. I bet Jeff disagrees, but "Hail to the King" is just
unreal,
unmatched.
It's definitely up there.
Like there is no other song like "Hail to the King." Gloom in the Corner said, "You know what? We can write an 8-minute song and we'll keep your attention the whole time. It doesn't matter." Which not a lot of bands can do.
Hail to the King kind of reminds me of like Man of the Year off of Mothership.
Because it's the last song on the album?
No, I'm making fun of you.
I know.
It doesn't remind me of Man of the Year at all.
You got me. Okay, you got me.
Nice. The chorus is so good. And then the verses just being like these disgusting, filthy, grimy deathcore moments. Like, we haven't seen like full-on deathcore Gloom since their debut album in 2016 with those kind of vocals. And the fact that they bring it back here, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
It feels so powerful with what's happening in the story too. It just works perfectly. And I don't know if we want to talk about the story just in case people want to listen to it first, but the moments with those elements draw together so
they're huge.
Yeah, they're huge. And it really, really helps you to get into the scene. I think that's one thing that Gloom does really, really well throughout the entire thing is that when they're trying to set a scene, they know how to use the correct instrumentation to really put you into that moment. Again, I don't know any other band that's really doing that.
Yeah. I mean, like, the last 3 tracks on this album, this whole album is great. The last 3 tracks are flawless. It is, like, perfection.
Yeah, they're transcendent. They really are.
And I just cannot stop listening to those 3 tracks in particular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's so
I had them
good.
on repeat so many times.
I still do.
No, I still do as well. But I feel like Obliteration Imminent has definitely joined that group of like transcendent songs for me. That and Gravity as well. It's just like, as the album matures on me and I listen to it more and more songs I'm adding to like the Flawless collection, as I'm listening to it.
Yeah,
Which I think bodes, really, really well for the staying power for this album.
absolutely. And like just the general density of the songs on here.
Oh, there's so much happening. There's so many musical elements hitting your ears at once at any given moment. Sort of what I was talking about with like the female vocals coming in randomly, like in Gatekeeper, the female vocalist is just for like a couple seconds, but it adds so much to what's about to happen in that scene. I don't know. It's just they didn't have to do that, but the fact that they did, I think, says so much about how much they value the art that they're creating.
I think the last thing I want to say about this album, because I could go on and on and on and on. This is their magnum opus so far. Everything they've ever attempted to do, they do so well on here. Like Behemoth, we haven't even talked about his like rap metal delivery in that song, which like they've been doing since the beginning, like Homecoming, their 2017 EP, which is also really good. And if you haven't heard that, check it out. Like he does that a lot on there. There's a lot of new metal influence there. And they really bring that back here for a full song that is absolutely nuts.
Yep.
Nor Hella Fury has like a lot of lyrical references to their debut album, Fear Me, from 2016. And just like the Gloom in the Corner is so intent on their storytelling that they have like these musical motifs for each of the characters that have come back from like those projects in 2017. And like lyrically, they're mentioning things that they said on that project. Like, oh, I said God abandoned us, but he abandoned us all is a lyric on this album, which is a callback to a breakdown on that 2017 EP. And like
really?
stuff like that is just all throughout this album.
Wow.
And it's just amazing what they've done here.
Yeah, and they have an ongoing playlist of the songs in order chronologically for the story. I really hope they add this album soon to that playlist because I'm definitely gonna listen to that.
Well, it's all at the end.
What?
It's all at the end. Like this album is like at the end of all of that.
Yeah, this album is in chronological order.
Oh, really? This. Oh, okay.
Really?
Well, because you never know.
Really, Jeff?
Well, you never know if there's like flashbacks happening or what. They have a lot of flashbacks in their songs and stuff.
That's a good point.
So yeah, I mean, Nathan definitely knows the lore, and Kyle, you may do as well, way more than I do. But
I know an embarrassing amount about the Gloom in the Corner lore.
is it really embarrassing though to know the lore of your album of the year? I would say no.
Nope.
True. It's called dedication.
Yeah,
It's called dedication to the craft. I'm just in love with it. What can I say?
exactly. No, but yeah,
Like I could probably give you an overview of what happens on this album without looking at the track list.
I know that they fight demons.
Nice. Yeah, they go to hell. Like the first half of this album is in hell.
Fantastic work, Jeff.
So yes, they do fight demons.
Boys, I'm very excited to in 35 years opening night getting VIP passes from the Gloom in the Corner to go watch their Broadway play called Trinity. Very
Heck
excited.
yeah, dude. That's gonna be awesome. I feel like of all the bands, Gloom in the Corner could get away with like a theatrical production and it would be sick.
Oh, absolutely. And even seeing the animations on Spotify, like the little videos for when you're listening to the songs, I want them to create like some sort of animation for this. Really put it into like a Netflix short or something. That would be pretty cool. But we might have to wait a while. For that.
Netflix puts off a lot of shows that have worse stories than what the Gloom has come up with. So
Exactly.
True.
Can't be that hard, right?
True.
I'm just amazed that this album not only lived up to my incredibly high expectations, but exceeded them. Because like we've been fans of Gloom in the Corner for quite some time now, and just loved basically everything they've done. So obviously, like we were super stoked when this was announced, when like this was coming out. I was like, I mean, I'm so excited for this. And there's a part of me that's a little worried that it won't live up. And then they just said, strap in. And it's amazing. It's genuinely flawless.
Yep.
Words do not do this album justice. You need to listen to Trinity by the Gloom in the Corner. And if you like that, start going through their back catalog and you won't be disappointed. They're amazing. They're incredible. They're the future of metalcore.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yep. Drop the mic, brother. That was fantastic.
Yeah, Gloom in the Corner. Congrats. Unanimous album of the year.
And like it wasn't close.
No, like we didn't even have to talk about it beforehand. We did a little bit, but only because we knew.
Congrats, Gloom. As the first ever annual Discourse unanimous album of the year.
Maybe the only time it ever happens.
We'll
So,
see.
shout out.
Until they release another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, until Trinity 2, 6.
Trinity 2.
Dude, I cannot wait to see what they do next. Like, how do they top this? Like, it's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be tough, but if they can exceed my expectations once, they can do it again.
Yep.
I'm thrilled. I need to see them live. They need to come to the States.
They're Australian, right?
Yep, Melbourne's very
You gotta
own.
get over here. I would drive a while to see them.
I would drive to Melbourne to see
Dang
them.
it, dude. I was gonna make that joke. That's a great joke.
Thank you. Gotta be quicker than that. All right.
Yeah.
So I think since we have so much variety in each of our lists, why don't we each read our list 5 to 1? Jeff?
Sure. At number 5, I have Pain Remains by Lorna Shore. At number 4, I have Color Decay by The Devil Wears Prada. At number 3, I have To Only a Few at First by Royal Coda. At number 2, I have Heroin by Thornhill. And my number 1 album of the year is Trinity by The Gloom in the Corner.
Delightful.
My number 5 is This World is Going to Ruin You by Vane.fm. My number 4 is The Unraveling of Pup the Band by Pup. My number 3 is Color Decay by The Devil Wears Prada. My number 2 is Oh, What the Future Holds by Fit for an Autopsy. My number 1 is Trinity by The Gloom in the Corner.
And last, but certainly not least, my number 5 album of the year is Color Decay by The Devil Wears Prada. Number 4, I have Euthanasia by Stray from the Path. At number 3, I have Oni by Darko US. Number 2, I have To Only a Few at First by Royal Coda. And number 1, Trinity by The Gloom in the Corner. Hats off to them. Go listen to that album. And that'll do it for the inaugural Discourse end of the year extravaganza. This is going to be a little bit of a longer episode, I think.
Yeah.
But if you've stuck around through all of our various ramblings on various topics, thanks a lot. We really appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for the support this year. We started this podcast. We had no idea what was going to happen. We had no idea if it was going to be anything worthwhile. But, I mean, the response from you guys has been really cool. We really appreciate that so much. Big things to come next year. We'll have an episode out mid-January for you to kick things off in the new year. Who's leading that episode?
I think
Me.
I also think Jeff. So Jeff will be kicking it off. It'll be a little sick. It'll be a little disgusting. Might be a little aggressive. Other Beartooth albums. It'll be fun.
Nice.
So thanks again so much for making 2022 a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for listening to our show. And we'll see you in the new year.